it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this Degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
But really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and gentlemen of all ages. We're back for another Friday book club. This time we have a bit of a special show, doing something fun to close out the year a little bit and do a bit of a year in review, or almost a year and a half. Crazy to think about. This is episode number 47, and I believe we're talking about 38 books today. Yes, we are. So that is what we're going to be doing. Well, that's actually not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're ranking all the books. We're going to talk about them and see where they fall on our tier list. Yes, we are doing the clickbait, but should be fun. I'm joining tonight by all of my usual suspects, starting off with my co-host, Mr. Will Stevenson. How you doing, brother?
Bro, life is good. I spent all day today wandering around my property up here with like that little pink caution tape and like wrapping it around trees, walking through the snow, cutting down woods and stuff. It was so much fun, bro. So much excellent fantasticness, and I'm super stoked with this tier list. This is the first time I went to that tier list maker. That what is it called? We got
it's a fun website.
Yeah, we're actually going to drop a link in the chat for the folks at home. If you guys want to vote on whichever books you think are awesome, I'm going to go ahead and drop those tier lists while we're doing the rest of the introductions and stuff. But I'm super stoked, man. Life is good. It's been snowing and doing crazy shit up here in the great Northeast, up in the beautiful state of New Hampshire, and life is good. Life is chilly. Plenty of room for campfire stories and fun stuff. Let's fucking get into it, bro. What about the other panelist members?
Real quick, Will, by the way, I have something you might recognize.
Ooh, a Ranye. Look at you up there in the Great White North. Oh, that is the Pacific Northwest. So for the folks that don't know, outside of Seattle-Tacoma area in Washington State is Mount Rainier, which is one of the most beautiful mountains in the country, if you ask me. I don't know exactly how tall it goes. Yeah, but like everywhere in Seattle, everywhere, like anywhere in like probably 30, 40, 50 mile radius of Seattle, you can see Mount Rainier. And they have the Rainier beers. So Zenith is celebrating with his Rainier. And then I've got me some Canadian Labatt Blue, Canadian Pilsners. So we're drinking that Great White North beer. I'm sure that Nate, you've probably got some, you guys have probably got some Wisconsin beers or somewhere. What is it? The Angry Cow is the one that you like? What's the cow?
Spotted Cow. Angry Cow is actually it's a vodka liquor with
okay,
the creams or whatever, but yeah, it's an alcoholic cream.
Gotcha.
Spotted Cow is the beer, yeah.
Well, excellent. How are you guys doing? How are you and Mrs. Producer? Start with you first, though.
Yeah. Well, we thought the Thanksgiving sickness was over, and we had a brief period where we were getting better and we were happier. And then all of a sudden it got below negative degrees, literally negative degrees out here with, I think we got like 3 to 4 feet of snow in one night.
Jesus.
And now we're back. We're back to being sick. Yeah. If you make me laugh loud enough, you'll definitely hear a big difference in my voice because it is out. And yeah, we're just kind of suffering at this point. So Merry White Christmas to us.
Yeah, no kidding. That's freaking, man. Like, I'm sorry to hear that, but like 3 to 4 feet of snow, that's fucking nuts, bro.
Oh, I had to go driving, and it was actually my work delayed us an hour and a half just so the plows could get out there. And I'm not gonna lie, it's fun to drive around in the snow. It's when you purposely go around corners, literally drifting them.
That's awesome. Freaking sweet. What about you, Mrs. Producer? How are you doing today?
Well, other than sickness on top of sickness, I'm doing pretty good. Soren also got sick, but he was finally well enough to go to school the last 2 days, and so yesterday he got to make a gingerbread house. And that was really exciting for him because we haven't done that yet. And he came home just completely covered in frosting. So, yeah, it was all caked on his shirt, all over the place. He had a little bit on his pants. And then he got the gingerbread house home. And I guess like a couple other kids had theirs on the bus. And like, unfortunately, they fell apart before they actually got them into their house. His survived. But now he's just slowly eating it and just like eating the frosting off of it too. Not even like the cookies or the candy. He just wants the frosting. And I'm like, all right, whatever, kid. So he's been having a lot of fun with that. Yeah, other than that, we're getting ready for Christmas. Gonna go visit my family. Same way we did Thanksgiving, basically exact same thing, same place, and go see my grandma. And yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I think I'm the only one traveling right now, and then Will's actually home for once, which is interesting. Although you've been home for about a month and a half now.
Well, yeah, just including when I went to El Salvador and hung out with all the Bitcoiners and things. I've been home up here in New Hampshire for longer than I've owned this house for 2 years now, and I've spent maybe a collective of 2 weeks here up until this last 2 months. I think I got here. It was right after the Richard Hart trial thing, so it would have been like, I don't know, November 8th, 9th, 10th, somewhere in that zone. I don't even remember how long were we over there in New York for, because it was October 31st, and then November 1st was the Pulse Chain tour. We hung out for a couple days after that. I stayed in the area for maybe a day or two, and then after that I shot up north up here. So probably around like somewhere between the 5th and the 10th is when I got up here. So yeah, it's been almost 2 months of me being like living in a house like a normal person, not like rolling all over the country. So that's pretty cool. But
Must be nice.
Yes.
Fair enough. Well, we got everyone in here. We have one more thing to do before we get into the main topic, and that is say hey to everybody at home.
It's chat motherfucking shout-outs time, ladies and germs, where we shout you out, where we appreciate and we show our love and affection for you guys that are hanging out with us. By the way, I've gone ahead and for those of you guys in the chats that are following along, if you guys want to participate in the ranking of these books, I've gone ahead and dropped the link to the tier maker website in the live chats now. So while we're reading these live chats, if you guys want to go and vote on all of these books that we've covered in the Degen Roundtable, then feel free to head on over there and do so. But yeah, let's go ahead and take it away, Mr. Zenith. Let's do
a quick shout out, Will, for that. So when you go and you make the tier list, you're able to download the picture that you made too. Go ahead, go send that to our Telegram and tell all what your favorite books are.
Ooh, yes.
I dig it.
Right now.
All right, while you guys are doing that, I'm going to welcome our first Degen of the evening, a classic, Funkmaster Hex. It says, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening to you, sir. Hope you're enjoying a fine beverage yourself, as always. The Trailer Park Julian of the DRT. Good to see you, my man, as always. This should be a fun show. I'm looking forward to it. I hope everyone else is entertained, too. Yeah, like Will's saying, get in there, put your votes in, and make your own tier list, too. All right, who we got next? Dr. H, the Cryptopractor, saying, first real boy to comment, you fuckers. Evening, Degens, Mary, whatever. Dr. H, P.S., spank the lake oh so gently.
Oh, man.
Good to see you, Dr. H. Much appreciated, my man. Bringing some good energy. I like it. That's probably the mood for the evening when it comes to doing a tier list for all the work that we've done up to this point. So I like it. Let's keep it rolling. We got Hexagon Lost in Asia. He's here for the fist pumping. I believe he called it the strip club music intro. So there you are. Hope you're doing well, my man. And we got a Wild SJ, a guest of the book club periodically. Always happy to have her, and always great to see you in the chat or wherever else we see you. Hope you're doing very, very well. And I believe she also said that Mount Rainier is gorgeous or beautiful. One of them.
Definitely.
I agree. Mount Rainier is glorious. It's a good one. It is very cool, and it's a good sight to see when you're flying in. And sometimes the traffic pattern for the aircraft when you're flying into SeaTac is you'll actually kind of like do a little like half loop around Rainier. If you look out the window and you don't just pass out immediately like I do, you get a very good view. All right, I think we got one or two more. Arrows says huzzah. Huzzah to you, sir. Apologies if I'm butchering the name, by the way. And Moonpill Rational Optics, he says, nobody panic. I made it. What have I missed? Just the intros, and tonight we're covering every book we've talked about, starting with Rich Dad Poor Dad and going all the way to Outwitting the Devil, which was your recommendation. So that's what we got going on.
We do
and
have
clinch
one
ons.
more. Yep.
Good day, D-Gents. Good day to you too, sir.
Excellent.
All right. All of the business is out of the way. On to the tomfoolery. So, what we're doing tonight is we are constructing a tier list. We have 5 categories. So, if we can go ahead and pull up the screen share so we can introduce.
We have 5?
Do we? Or do we have 4? Back to 4. I like it.
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
I'm personally a fan of 4 because it makes it an even number and you can't just stick stuff in the middle. You got to commit. You got to put something on either side of the fence. So starting off at the top, we have books that we think are Galaxy Brain, aka the best of the best. After that, we have a good Adam Driver meme saying good soup, saying this is a good book overall. After that, we have the other side of the fence. We have a few tasty morsels here. It's overall pretty good. Some good lessons to learn. And then at the bottom, we have, interesting. For maybe the book just didn't tickle your fancy, and that's okay. Lord knows I'm probably going to get some flack from our own people about what I'm probably going to stick in that category. But again, if you've been watching this channel, this is not going to be any surprise. But at the same time, I will do my best to try to give a fair shake. And it's been a hot minute, so maybe some of the older books we might look back with a little rose-tinted glasses per se. But we will see. And then down below.
I'm with you on that one, though, Zenith. Just know that I'm with you.
All right, fair enough. I like it. I hope we have some healthy conversation and hopefully some healthy disagreements too. Below that, though, that smorgasbord of images, those are all of our book cover titles, all 38 of them, I believe. So those are what we are going to drag and drop up into the tier list. We're going to be discussing each one by one, seeing what we like, what we don't like, and where we rank it amongst the rest. As far as the overall criteria for what we're talking about here, I think there's 2 criteria to really look for. Overall impressions of the book, how much did you like it? And then I guess as a second criteria, how good of a crypto investor learning book is it? And then take your pick, a combination, one or the other, if it really smashes it out of the park. That is how I'm going to be grading it anyway, and I would encourage the rest of you to do so as well, or at least communicate your ideas. So, before we get to it, any questions?
I think this is pretty good. I've also got this other option. Oh goodness, reload page. So there's this. I've dropped both of the links into these below. So this is a 7-day voting thing, and I've already gone through it, and it's pretty much the same thing, except you just vote for them over here. The colors are different because I couldn't figure out how to set up the color thing where red is the best and yellow is the worst. I don't know why it chose those colors. I tried changing them, but it just didn't. It didn't work. But over here, if you guys want to do this this same thing, I'll go ahead and copy that link and throw that on into the chats as well. So this is the live voting for audience. So not only can you guys can participate in the original link that we dropped, or you can also do this other little voting session over here at that link that I just dropped, live.tiermaker.com / and all those letters and numbers and things. But it's super easy. The book just shows up right here, and you just click which color you want it to go through. Now, the unfortunate truth of this is that once you pick one, it's stuck that way. And if you want to change your vote, you have to reload the page and do it all over again. So it's so, like, for instance, if I take a look at Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's like, oh, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think that's good. I'll put it in, either the good soup or the few tasty morsels. So I just click on one of those, and it automatically puts it over in there, right? And then on next, I submit vote for $100 million office. I could be like, oh, that's a fantastic book. I click the red, and then sci-fi. Oh, that's fantastic. Click the red, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one way that you guys can do it. And it's pretty interesting because it will show you, like, this is where other people have put it. This is like the percentage of, so like right now, all the people, and there's only been a few of them, all the people that have looked at looked at Poor Richard's retirement, they've all put it in a few tasty morsels. So it's like, oh, I could fall in line with them and I could vote that way, or I could put it in a different one, and that then splits up the voting and things like that. So you guys can go and check that out, or you can look on this one. This one's honestly my personal favorite because it allows you to pick things up and move them around. So like as I pick up Rich Dad Poor Dad, I'm like, oh, that's a galaxy brain. Or I could say like, oh, a few tasty morsels, et cetera, et cetera. But we're just going to be going through this whole process live for you guys. But anyways, those are the two little links. This one's a little bit more permanent and a little bit more fun. So you guys can go through this as you like over the next 7 days or 6 days, 22 hours and 16 minutes. And then this is the one that we're doing right now. You guys can all follow this and do this exact same thing. It will look different. I've changed the color scheme for these. So like I made the top one blue as they normally are, the next one green, and then yellow, and then red. So just kind of be like, blue is the best, green is great, yellow is like, okay, cool, and then red is like, yeah, whatever, I'll pass. So anyways, that's the system that we're going to be using for the voting. Are there any questions from the panelists or any questions in the chats? Go ahead and throw them up in there, and we'll make sure to cover it all. But let's go ahead and hop right into it. Z, how do you want to drive this boat? You want to go? You want to just pick them randomly, or should we go through the list?
Let's just go through the list as they appear. So starting off with the OG Rich Dad Poor Dad. This is from Robert Kiyosaki. This is a bit of a narrative about his journey into entrepreneurship and some of the entrepreneurial lessons he's learned. So I want to go ahead and kick this over to the panel first because I have some thoughts and I already know where I want to put this one. How do you guys feel about this book?
I'd put it in green or yellow, personally.
Green or yellow? Why do you say that?
Towards yellow. Because it's a good book. It's got some decent stuff in it, but it's nothing really like life-changing. It's just like a good-ish book. It's not bad. It's not red material, but it's not like, oh, wow, awe-inspiring sort of stuff.
Yeah, I put it in yellow as well. To me, like it's one of the OG books that you have to read if you're trying to learn about finances. However, once you start really learning about finances, this book becomes milquetoast, and it's like, oh, that's the same thing all the other books say. The only difference is it's a little bit funner learning the difference between Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad and his Poor Dad, and it's a live example, a living example of how these lessons can affect your life. But other than that, yeah, I'd say it's kind of just milquetoast.
What about Mrs. Producer? What are your thoughts on Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yeah, I want to hear Zenith first.
Ooh.
So this is a bit of a two-tier recommendation thing for me. Are any of the concepts in the book super insightful, just truly data-driven, doing some like really hard-pounding research? No. But the reason I think so highly of this book is because this is the book that I feel comfortable giving to anybody to get into any sort of mindset outside of working a 9-to-5 job. This is the book that it's fluffy enough, but also has enough substance and really drives points through the narrative to get people to start thinking outside of the box, start thinking about money and investment in ways that they typically haven't been trained to do so. And because you can give it to anybody, and I feel very, very confident about that, I'm gonna put it in the good soup category because I think that this is kind of one of the gold standards for intro to finance or intro to advanced finance outside of like escaping the rat race, as Robert Kiyosaki would say. So it's not Galaxy Brain, but just because it's just so solid and such a good staple, that's why I'm putting it here.
Okay.
All right. Well, I feel betrayed by all of you, and I'm going to leave now. Bye.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll see you, Mrs. Producer. What are your thoughts?
This is one of my all-time favorites. It's definitely top of the top for me.
No
the
kidding.
reasoning is actually what Zenith just said is a very good way to break that down. The thing that really stood out to me with this book is it's extremely digestible and extremely relatable. Most people can relate with Poor Dad's point of view, and most of us are like listening through this story, hearing what he's saying and how he's describing how his father reacts to like some of the choices he makes, and it's very realistic. Oh, you gave up this really good job. Why? How could you? You betrayed me. This is terrible. You did an awful thing, and now things are falling apart. Oh, you got an even better job. That's amazing. And then rinse and repeat. Like Kiyosaki keeps going through that cycle, and every time he's like, my dad freaks out about it because he's so so upset. And then the making the nickels thing and the idea of coming up with that business that they do with the comic books, all of it is so cool. And I just love it. It's like a great introduction into how to really get your mindset into the right place. One of the quotes from this book that I will always remember is never say I can't afford it, always ask how can I afford it. And that has stuck with me for years. So just that quote and like all of those, those little nuances and how easy it is to like actually get through this book and take the message that he's trying to give and really implant it in your brain. At least that's how it's worked for me. I say it's top of the top because like Zena said, you can hand this book to almost anybody, and they're going to be able to have a similar experience to what I'm describing.
For sure.
Go ahead, Z.
What's our final ranking? We have to come to some sort of consensus here.
So
I'm fine putting it in Galaxy Brain.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to reshare my entire window, because what I have done, and oh boy, this is going to be this might be a little bit confusing, might be a little bit complicated. Miss Producer, go ahead.
Tab swapping today.
But what I'm thinking, right, is we've got right here the Degen Roundtable. So like one of these could be, oh goodness, one of these could be, minimize that. All right, so you see what I've got going on here? So we can have one for, Zenith. We could have one for Mrs. Producer. We could have one for Nate, and then mine is, well, shoot. I guess I could just pull mine up in this tab as well, and then we could make 4 of them, or we could do like a consensus and sort of kind of just meld it all into one. What do you guys think?
Yeah, probably
just go for the single.
Okay,
just go for the single.
I'm going to cancel my.
Yeah, me too. We need to be able to come to some kind of agreement, I feel.
Okay. Well, so
I'm putting it in green, truthfully, because I completely agree with you, Zenith. This is one of those, like when I called it, one of the necessary financial books. It's because this is one of your first steps in your journey. You go to this book. It's always one of the first ones.
It is well renowned and famous for a reason.
Yep. Okie dokie.
So.
Right. Well, I'm closing, so stand by whilst I resize this to the correct distances. There we go. All right, cool beans. So we've got, so I think that, so this would be, so I'm inclined to put it in yellow. Miss Producer wants to put it in blue, and Zenith and Nate kind of agree on green. What do we think about leaving it in green?
I think that's the average. Let's just, we got a lot of books to get through.
That's true.
I think
all right,
that's
next.
fair enough, and I can deal with my sense of betrayal over it. It's fine. I'll get over it.
Oh, there will be plenty more, Cass. Don't you worry. Next up, though, we got $100 million offers by Alex Hormozy. What do we think about this? I put this one up in the blue. That's where my initial spot was. I want to hear what you got, because just this teaches so much about sales and how to talk to people and how to create something valuable that people want to actually obtain from you or something like that. That's what I was thinking, is $100 million offers goes up in the blue. Galaxy Brain stuff. What do you guys think?
So with $100 million offers and also, what was it, $100 million leads, both those I saw as kind of the modern take on how to do businesses and how to sell things in the age of the internet. And that's the reason why, for me, one of the things that I rate books on most is how did it impact my own personal life, right? And these books are really important for anybody who's doing anything online, I would say. For me, I would definitely put that in the green. Actually, I'd put both of them.
Package deal.
I actually have 2 different thoughts on these books, on the different books. $100 million offers is the first book. Leads is the second. I think that $100 million offers for me is a Galaxy Brain, because it is one of the philosophy behind the entire strategy of the book. I think is very sound, very up to date for current standards, and is very applicable. On top of that, this is one of the most practically useful books I've ever read for the entrepreneurial stuff. And I think when it comes to investing, and also the understanding of like a sense of like selling and like the value of things, and just the value proposition equation alone, I think that this is probably Alex Hormozy's best book. I personally, don't get me wrong here, I like $100 million leads a lot. I just don't think that book is as useful and as applicable to $100 million offers. So I actually put that one down in a few tasty morsels. There's great stuff in it, but there's a lot of it where it's like, it feels like that's 12 steps away from me. It's like, I understand it, but it's just like, yeah.
I do remember that this book had gave me one of the most important insights that I never really thought about, and that's give out as much valuable content for free as possible, and then you
correct.
That right there, that blew my mind when I read that.
Yeah, Leads is very good. Don't get me wrong. I just think that the applicability of the information is a little lacking just because it's that advanced level stuff.
Mr. Producer, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so just really quick to make sure I have my memory correct on these. Offers has the quote of, "I'm not going to sell you this pen because you're not interested in buying a pen," right? That whole scenario. Was that from that
That's
book?
the Wolf of Wall Street.
That's
Wolf
Way
Wall
of the
Street.
Wolf.
Okay,
The Way of the
gotcha.
Wolf, yeah.
Yeah, whatever it's called, the movie, the book. We get the point though. Okay, so I'm trying to remember like tidbits from this book right now. Zenith, could you possibly like give us a very brief synopsis about it?
Sure thing. So one of the biggest things about $100 million offers is the value proposition equation, which is up top, you have the max possible value that you can offer a customer, the dream outcome, thank you. And you have the perceived likelihood of achievement. And then on the bottom, you have time delay and the effort or sacrifice required. And that is how you derive value. And then additionally, you can even expand this equation too, which is that you say, if to generate goodwill with customers, what you can do is you can make them feel like they are getting more value than what they're paying for it. And that difference between the value of what they feel like they're getting versus what they're getting paid, that's the goodwill that customer will feel. And that's how they will help with referrals, word of mouth, that kind of stuff. Overall, though, the general tagline for this book is you want to make an offer so good that people feel stupid for saying no. And how do you construct said offer for whatever product you're doing?
Okay, yes, I do remember that now. I feel like offers, $100 million offers is fantastic. One thing that I thought about while we were going through it is that a lot of people have um, kind of already unlocked the secrets within it, and they have been doing them almost to the point where it's gotten a little bit old. Some of the strategies I've seen, like they pop up so often that people are like, okay, I'm tired of hearing this same thing from all these different companies, so they don't necessarily believe them anymore. So in that sense, I feel like it's not quite there yet, but some of the concepts are getting to be a little bit dated. I would
Okay.
still put it probably in the green personally. And then are we doing leads right now then as well? Or are we
Yeah,
gonna
I mean,
Might as
they're
well.
very similar.
Okay. Leads, I don't remember too much about it, but I do remember Zenith what you were saying. I definitely agree with. It was very good, but at the same time, a lot of it was like something that's very out of reach for me personally. So it's kind of hard for me to connect with that and be like, yes, I really definitely know that that works, or I agree with that. So I could agree with yellow.
We think yellow for leads and then galaxy for offers.
I like it.
You know, the thing about leads is that I always I always conflate the both of them because leads always seem to me to be like a sequel, just like an add-on to what offers we're
Yes.
talking about. And so
Yeah.
for me, it's really hard to kind of separate them.
Yeah, and that was kind of the idea that he had when he was writing them. And I do agree with Zenith that a lot of the stuff in leads is like, hey, this is stuff you guys will be doing down the road. Once you've figured out the $100 million offer stuff, then you're gonna have to generate the leads, and then you're gonna have to do all that stuff. So it while they are pretty synonymous, I do think that leads focused on the stuff that's a little bit further down in the future, not necessarily as applicable right now. Like we're still in our 500 hours of expertise area on our journey, or something in that range, right? Of as far as the Degen Roundtable is concerned, as far as the amount of content that we made. So like the 10,000 hour zone, I would say that $100 million leads is maybe in the $2,000 or 2,000 hours area or something like that. So I think that it would be appropriate to put the leads in the yellow and keep the offers up in the blue, because I think of the two of them, offers is probably the better book as far as like unique substance and things of that nature. So what do we think about offers in blue? Do we get thumbs up on that? Thumbs down?
I would just say green for both, so I'm in between.
Green for both? Okay. So then so would this work then as like a kind of a split and average? Miss
Yeah,
Producer, you
I
good?
like it.
I'm good with that. I could swing offers being in the galaxy ring, even the rich dad poor dad isn't. Still gonna be a little
Yeah.
bitter, but you know what? It's fine.
Just remind us as much as possible, so that way we make sure that we drive it home. All right, next
Yes.
up,
True.
guys, we've got Sci-Vive, and Sci-Vive is like my personal favorite of all the books that we've covered, simply because it covers the most things. So I would put it up in the blue, and I think that we're going to have a little bit of a disagreement here on the panel, because this one is my personal favorite book. It covers the most like angles of everything, while not necessarily being like a book in the traditional sense. So I would put it up in the Galaxy Brain stuff for Sci-Vive. What are your guys' thoughts on Sci-Vive? I think that some of you guys would put it maybe in the red or some in the green.
Hey, Zenith, do you want to go last?
I might surprise you on this one, but yeah, I can. I'll go last.
All right, I'll start with me then. So, I love the concepts that are in the book. The problem is they're everywhere, and you go from one concept that makes you go, oh wow, I never thought of that, to fixing keyboards and what keyboards are your best ones, right? So, I'm sorry, I can't really, and it's like scatterbrain, right?
Oh yeah,
type of a book. So for me personally, I'm like, that's interesting. There's good information in it. Don't get me wrong. It's just interesting the way that it's written.
fair. What about you, Cass? What's your thoughts?
Oh gosh, I get to be the bad guy here, don't I?
No,
Okay.
there is no bad, there is no good. These are
No,
we
I
want
know.
your unobjective.
I
or
mean,
your-
I do kind of like this tier list because it doesn't necessarily have a bad ranking. Even if we don't really like it, it's still like, oh, it was interesting. You know what I mean? So everything
Exactly.
in here kind of leans towards like more positive innuations or words. Or
It's
however you
almost
want
like
to
we
say
tried not to choose bad books.
that. I fancy that, my friend. Do you really think that would be possible? Like, come on. Okay.
Oh, we can find some. We can find some.
Oh God, no, let's not.
Good time now.
So Will is the exact reason that you say that this is a Galaxy Brain book for you is the exact reason that I say this book is very hard to read.
That's fine.
There is too much in it. It's like 20-hour audiobook or whatever it was grand total. And there's so much going on, and he jumps back and forth between all these different things. However, I am going to factor in that what Zenith said at the beginning of the stream, what it means for crypto. Well, if we take in that idea, it's literally made by one of the biggest crypto people out there. So I want to put it in good soup, but I also don't think it deserves that much credit. So I'm going to go with yellow.
Yellow?
I am in agreement with Cass, and I think you took a lot of my talking points, which is like, are there very interesting concepts? Yes. This is a 20-hour audiobook. I'm pretty sure we covered this one over the course of 7 or 8 episodes. And even then, that felt like a kind of reasonable pace just because there was so much just stuff put into each of the chapters. However, there's no like overarching philosophy outside of just like do more with your time. And then again, it kind of gets like very sporadic because it's like there's chapters where you talk about like working out, money, finance, like what is money even a little bit. And you also get into like chasing women and keyboard construction. And it's like, yeah, the construction itself is an issue, especially considering it's purported to be a self-help book, but at the same time trying to construct an actual philosophy or thing to do with it. It's raw. So I'll put it in a few tasty morsels. I do think it's very important for the Richard Hart ecosystem and the community. It's absolutely a feather in Richard Hart's cap, but at the same time, in comparison to the rest of the books on here, I just don't think it quite stacks up. There's still very good info, though.
Yeah.
So that's why I say there's a few tasty morsels.
I think that then a few tasty morsels would be appropriate since both you and Nate would have, or you and Mrs. McGettit both said yellow. I said blue, and then Nate said red. So like this would be a good average spot for it. And I will concede to the popular demand. I know where my thoughts are in there for my own reasons. I will say that we did 9 episodes of Degen Roundtable Book Club covering sci-fi 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, 25, and 27 for a total of 9 episodes. So pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. And it does take a while to cover all the stuff in this book. So excellent reasoning. Next up, though, we've got Poor Richard's Retirement by Aaron Clary. Where do we put Poor Richard's Retirement, ladies and gentlemen? I'll go ahead and start off. I put it in yellow because it was pretty decent, but it wasn't anything fancy. It's like it's all good information. Nothing terrible, nothing awesome. So that was my stock placement for Poor Richard Retirement. Nate, what about you?
Well, to tell you the truth, I can't remember this book.
Yeah, I barely remember it either, which is kind of why I had it in.
So I'm gonna have to say, interesting. What's the deal, brain?
Exactly.
Allow me to inject myself here. So some of the core concept of this book was that the way we've been running the financial system in the United States ever since the 60s is unsustainable. Your retirement is probably going to get jacked.
Yep.
Social Security will not be there for you if you were born sometime after 1970. And the odd part is, at the very last, you get a very doomer take about like, wow, everything sucks. Your retirement's probably going to suck. In fact, he even references the Smith & Wesson retirement plan, if you will.
Oh,
but then he
geez.
also finishes, he caps off the, that's in there, it's in there. But he caps off the book by saying, okay, what's the whole point of this? And he's like, well, try to be an interesting person so you can attract other interesting people so you can lead an interesting life. So you're not just going to suffer trying to stack numbers for retirement. So for me, it was a very satisfying kind of like bow on it. Overall, I think this thing was like no more than 150 pages. So for me, it's a good soup. Nothing galaxy brain, but the little, it's data driven. And then the twist at the end that's like, hey, all we got at the end of the day is humanity. Try not to suck.
Yeah.
Okay,
just
so
very
this
long.
was the
Go ahead.
Aaron Clary Doomer book, the everything sucks book. Okay, that's probably why I forgot.
All
I'm
of
not
his
gonna lie.
books are kind of like.
I was going to say
If it's me, then I'm gonna say, interesting.
Interesting.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's fair.
So we've got a green, we've got a yellow, we've got a red. Mrs. Producer, what are your thoughts? Do you remember poor Richard's retirement?
Oh gosh, so we got one of each right now, huh?
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm
except
gonna
for
go ahead.
Galaxy Brain.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Galaxy Brain to be different. I'm kidding.
Whoa.
I'm kidding.
Whoa.
No, I will agree with you and with Will and Nate here. I kind of don't remember this very much, which is sad
That's
because
fair.
I do actually remember liking it.
What was this like
But
number
I
6 or
just
something that we did?
is that what yeah, maybe that would
Yeah,
explain why it's like
They're
kinda,
basically in order. Yeah.
Episode
okay, cool.
12. Or yeah, 12.
Okay. Well, that makes sense then. I do remember liking it though. I will agree with a few tasty morsels. If I could remember more of it, if more of it had like stuck with me, I'd be willing to go for, good soup. But the way it is right now, maybe I just need a refresher too. Maybe if I read it again, I'd be like, oh yeah, it definitely deserves to be in Galaxy Brain. But right now, I'm happy to leave it in yellow.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Seems pretty consensus. Next up, we've got Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, the story about why Chinese people are really good at math, why airplane pilots need to communicate very succinctly, and why ice hockey players need to be born around January 1st and February 1st. January and February. So, what are you guys' thoughts on Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell? I personally had it in green because I thought, okay, this is some interesting stuff. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that's not really like actionable. It's like, hey, you're going to be born in an environment, so like understand your environment and what like outlook that's going to play on your ability to do stuff. It didn't really do a whole lot of. I'm actually going to like in real time change my opinion on this. I'm going to put it in a few tasty morsels. There's a lot of good information in there, not a whole lot of actionable stuff other than just like understand the position in which you're born and in which you exist. Zenith, what were your thoughts on Outliers?
My thoughts were exactly the same thing, although I was going to start in a few tasty morsels. I do appreciate that the book is willing to touch some topics and actually dive into them in a way that would be considered like not PC or like socially appropriate or whatever you want to say. So they're like, no, we're going to look at the data. Why are these weird things happening? It's like, oh, okay, there's a reason for it. Got it.
Nate, what about you?
I actually did not read this book. This was one of the book clubs I was not on. So,
okay.
Yep,
All
for
good.
me, it's null and void.
I got a few of those too.
Gotcha. Mrs. Producer, do you have any thoughts on Outliers?
I don't remember it at all, actually. Like literally, it's totally gone. I don't know if I read that one.
Okie dokie. Well,
I'm sorry.
Sounds like this one's gonna kind of default into interesting because I only have it in a few tasty morsels, kind of like as a as like there was something in there. But if we got two people who weren't interested enough to like or who didn't read it or anything, what do you think, Zenith, about interesting, or should it stay in few tasty morsels?
That's fine. Interesting is fine.
Yeah, I mean it was a decent book. It was interesting.
I don't want to overhype it, but it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Excellent. All right. Well, next up, we've got Thinking in Bets by not Annie Oakley, Annie Duke by Annie Duke. So I think that I put this one in green. That was my default for Thinking in Bets because it teaches you about like, don't just think about everything as like a yes, no, 50-50. Think like start putting percentages on what you think the outcome is for things to happen. So this one actually offered some perspective changing differences for me when I read Thinking in Bets. So I would throw it in good soup theme. Mrs. Maggetta, do you remember Thinking in Bets with Annie Oakley? Do you have a preference for it?
Well, other than you changed the last name again there.
Oh yeah, not Andy.
Andy Duke, the
Who the hell
professional
is
poker player.
Okay.
To,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
give the one-line synopsis for this book, her tagline is, "Life is not chess, it's poker. You don't have a set board and rules. You operate with probabilities."
Okay, okay. Annie Oakley, by the way, was a sharpshooter. That's how I know her. Is she was a marksman. So that's
Oh,
what
okay.
I'm thinking of. She was the Wild West, like shooting candles and coins and
Ooh,
stuff. Trick shooter.
Gotcha.
killer.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask for another brief synopsis on this one because I'm remembering it vaguely, but I want a little bit more in my brain.
The other part of it is you can use your probabilities to build confidence curves, and then on top of that, you can also use confidence curves and expected outcome to build weight-based probability matrices similar to risk probability matrices that are used in real life to determine, okay, what's the probability of something happening? What's the severity of that outcome? And then you multiply those two factors together and you get kind of the value of that outcome. So sometimes you have some like very low impact but very frequent events. So it gets like a moderate to low score simply because it's like, what are the odds I stub my toe on the coffee table? Well, I have 3 coffee tables in the house, pretty high. What are the odds I get struck by an asteroid? Absolutely low. However, that will be the worst possible thing that could happen to me. Therefore, multiply those together, you end up with like low to medium-ish, that kind of stuff.
It's basically turning everything into a decision matrix and analyzing
It's
data better.
It's admitting that you will never know the one singular best move based on absolute outcomes. However, based on probabilities and how much risk and exposure you want to have, you can make the theoretically optimal choice in that moment, and then you have to react to the outcome as it happens.
Gotcha. Can we come back to me at the end? I want to think a little bit more on this.
Sure.
Sure.
Nate, do you have,
I got something on it. For me, this helped me quite a bit. I love this book. I would say definitely a good soup because it introduced the idea of everything is not just a 50-50, but like you can have an 80-20, like 80% true that say, and this is the most important part, we're in crypto, right? So when we get into a project, it's like 80% sure that this is going to go great, but there's a 20% chance that it could just rug, right? And because of that, I'm like, oh, okay, so that's how the decision making is made when we're, clicking buy and sell. And that's also the reason why we have words like de-risking, right? And you're dumping selling, but it's de-risking because that risk matrix now is starting to go from like, instead of an 80-20, it's now like going more 50-50, right? You're like, ooh, yeah, maybe I should start de-risking a little bit here. So for me personally, I definitely think this goes in good soup.
I personally am on the border between tasty morsels and interesting for this one. I like the concept. Believe me, like Larry has beaten this idea into me about how life is not chess and that game theory and design are not absolute. So that's where it goes for me.
Okay. Mrs. Producer, have you any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards, honestly, from what I can remember of this book and my general impression of it when we first read it, I want to say green. I'm trying to look through kind of like the main concepts here, and what I keep seeing is that it's one of the main things that this book tries to like impress upon people is to be more open-minded when they're making decisions. And the tagline for the book is how to make smarter decisions, and that I do remember that sticking with me and being important. So I'm leaning towards good soup for this one.
Okie dokie.
Fair enough.
Good soup. Good soup. And Nate, you had said good soup as well, right?
Have I been outvoted?
I think we might just put it in good soup. So I'm gonna
Fair enough.
little emotions for good and soup there. So we will put it in, or no, it's already in good soup. There we go. All right, sweet. I have to figure out what tab I'm on. I'm like getting lost in my tabs here. All right, cool beans. So we've got that. Next up, we've got Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Thoughts? I think I put this one in a few tasty morsels simply because I have a lot of I think, and this might just be my own personal bias, but I have like a pretty extensive military background, and like the stories are cool and whatever, and just the idea of be responsible for stuff it's been a theme throughout my adult life. So it was nothing really new or fancy here. It's good information. It didn't like show me the way in anything in particular. But that's just my own personal bias. Is I'd have it in a few tasty morsels. What thoughts do you
I'm
guys
going to jump
have?
in here.
Go ahead.
I'm going to jump in here and say, Will, that is fantastic. And I will agree with you. You are one of the few people I know who is very accountable for the things you do. And you are completely open to, well, not, I won't say completely open because everybody has a little bit of pushback when it comes to like receiving feedback. But you are very open to taking feedback in. However, I will also say that there are absolutely a crazy amount of people who would benefit from this book who should probably be reading it, especially in our generation. So for me, this is going to go in Galaxy Brain because if those people took this book up and decided to give it a chance, maybe they could learn something. I will also say that some of those people might not care because they're not going to listen to anybody else. But if more people took the principles of this book and applied them to their own lives, I think we would be in a better situation than what we are currently in with how the world is running. So for me, Galaxy Brain.
Excellent.
I agree, actually, because this book was one of those that stuck in my brain because it introduced the concept that I hadn't really had before in my life, and it showed me a direction to go that I can start improving on myself, and even though I'm not perfectly there yet, I can still improve. And so, I mean, what is my name? And this is one of those books that helps me ascend.
Excellent. Zenith?
I agree with everything you guys are saying. However, I value it somewhere between Galaxy Brain and Good Soup. This is absolutely a book that you can construct a worldview on and will help you improve as a person. At the same time, I love Jocko, but he is a warrior, not an author, and he's definitely a leader, but again, not an author per se. So,
Yep.
Are the stories fun? Yes. As military background here, I enjoy every little bit of it, but at the same time, the concepts could have been shortened. But overall, though, this is top notch. Like, this is fantastic stuff because, especially in the world that we operate with crypto, extreme ownership is the fundamental principle. If not your keys, not your crypto. Your keys, your fault. If you mess it up, so that's where I'm at.
I'm fine with leaving it in Galaxy Brain. I think that's perfectly okay because like I recognize that my own little bias with this thing to put it in that zone isn't necessarily a good one for like a mass recommendation and tier structuring. So I say we leave it in Galaxy Brain. Are there any objections?
Nope.
None.
All right, moving right along. Next up,
I'll kick us off on this one. We got the richest man in Babylon. Shout out to Dr. H. I think he had both of us on his channel at some point to help do the actual readings of chapters over there. I'm going to put this in Good Soup for the exact same reasons as I put Rich Dad Poor Dad in here. The principles are not anything ridiculous, but they are foundational and very, very good. And the overall structure of the book is very entertaining and readable and digestible. And I would feel 100% confident throwing this book at any new person, being like, "Hey, start here."
Yep, I would agree with you 110%. It like so much so that I would consider putting it in Galaxy Brain. It's not a lot of great stuff in there, but like just the idea of paying yourself first. People don't do that. Like, rule number 1 of the 10 rules of like gold retention or wealth or whatever the hell it was, 7 rules or 10 rules. I don't remember. But rule number 1 was pay yourself first. And that's like the concept that most people don't engage in. So like, I 100% agree. Good Soup, if not Galaxy Brain. Like, I'm hesitant to throw it in Galaxy Brain because it's not anything fancy or fantastic or like it's super crazy. Wow. But like at least Good Soup. So 100 right there with you, Z. What about you, Nate?
Yeah, this book is, again, a lot like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is one of the like go-to books when it comes to learning about finances. And the most insane thing about this book is that this was 5,000 years ago when these stories were written. And so that really cements into people's minds about how important these basic concepts are when it does come to finances. So this is, I would call this one of those starter books where you're going to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You're going to read Richest Man in Babylon. Those are those books that you're going to be reading when you start your journey.
Excellent. So, leave it in green. Okay, Mrs. Producer.
Y'all keep knocking my favorites down by the 1 tier. Like, what is going on here?
Look, I will agree with you that I think this book and Rich Dad Poor Dad are tied together. Wherever one ends up, the other will be there. I'm fine putting them both in Galaxy Brain. I'm just trying to not just like occupy. Maybe I'm just trying to metagame this too much, but I'm fine putting both of them in Galaxy Brain.
It will be something of a muddled thing because there's 4 opinions that we're kind of balancing out here. So
Oh, God. Yeah, don't take it too seriously, Will. I was just
yeah,
making
yeah.
a joke.
Okay, sure.
But
you
this
think
book,
Galaxy for this?
for me personally, yes. In the same, it's very similar reasons as to what I said with Rich Dad Poor Dad. Very digestible, very easy to get through, very easy concepts to understand, and like Nate mentioned, these stories are so old, but they can still very easily be applied to today. And one of the stories in here that like really stood out to me was, I think there was, I don't remember the names of the people, but there was a story where like it was like his adopted father took somebody in, and then he gave him, or it might have been actually his real father, I don't remember, but he gave this kid a bunch of money and he said, here, go out into the world and bring me back this money, go make your fortune off of it and bring me back my part. And he does, and he goes and he fails and he comes back. Eventually he comes back and he's like, I failed and I failed, and he tells him all about like all the things he did with this money and like how everything went with him, this gold. And he's like, but I finally did it, and I brought you back like triple. And that story is so important to me because it's just, to me, that speaks of like respect and how we should be treating the people who do support us in life and who do give us those chances to succeed and to do things and who trust us enough to just give you that. You know what I mean? To just extend that invitation. You don't find that a lot, and when you do, you absolutely need to cherish it and respect it. And so many people in this world don't. They get, we all have those friends who are like, hey bro, can I borrow $20? How many times has that guy borrowed $20 from you? What has he ever paid you back? You know what I mean? Like, we all have those stories. So to me, this book has a lot of really, really important concepts. That's just one of the many. So I am completely blue with that one.
Okie dokie. So we've got Mrs. McGettitt's full blue. We've got my half and half blue. We've got Nate's green. Zenith also green. I'm okay with bumping this up to blue. Zenith and Nate, what do you guys think about bumping it to blue?
Put it up there. Throw Robert Kiyosaki in there as well.
Yeah,
Robert in the blue.
those golden.
Yeah, that's
It's the
that's
starter book.
accurate.
You have to
The
start with that.
ubiquity, they just are fundamentals. They are the gold standard. Got to put it up there.
Fair enough. I've been convinced. All right, next up, we've got Ray Dalio with The Changing World Order. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in a few tasty morsels because I don't think it's terribly actionable. It's good background information, but it's not a whole lot of like, hey, do this, do that. This is where the world's going. It's good background information. It's not going to help you as an individual other than like help set the framework in which you operate and things. So there's not a lot of like action plan stuff in here, but it is like, hey, watch out for this. Hey, look out for that. So I threw it in a good tasty morsels. Z, what do you think?
I think that this is Galaxy Brain for me. It is it is a great historical record. It is very data driven, and the overall theory and thesis that he weaves together with the 3 cycles that when they come together, you see a changing in the global reserve currency. I think that these are fundamental concepts for crypto and investing, and just also this is something you can absolutely look back at history and construct a worldview or an understanding of events and how they happen in a way that makes sense. It allows you to understand what's going on in your time and how it might play into the future. So,
Nate, what about you?
Basically exactly what Zenith said, because this book is absolutely incredible for that. Well said, Z. I'm going to
it's a little long, I'll admit.
It's so good, dude. But
it's good.
I'm going to go ahead and add on what's actionable about it, Will. So what's actionable about this is how you need to set up your next generations. You can be the responsible party now in looking at the data here. And so then you can start not only sharing the data with your kids and your grandkids and your great grandkids, right? But you can also try to set them up so that when eventually a new world order does come around, they're not going to be harmed. They're not going to be touched by it. And it's going to be very smooth and easy transition for them.
Interesting. Okay, I hadn't thought about the generational stuff. That's a good point. Mrs. Producer, what about you?
See, I'm going to give a little bit of pushback on that. I do definitely agree with both Zenith and Nate that this book was fantastic. I personally really love looking at cycles like this, and it kind of shows me that the world has been doing the same things kind of over and over again for as long as humans have been on this planet, or for as long as recorded history, at least. We can't necessarily, we can't go back far enough when it's not recorded. So, but anyways, So I love looking at that pattern. I love kind of seeing all of this data, and it's just fascinating to me. The thing that I will say, like to Nate's point, is if you actually or my opinion anyways, what I kind of got from this book is that these things are not really able to be changed. It seems like the way that he describes them, at least, is that these patterns are inevitable, and no matter how hard we try to learn and change them, they're just repeating. So I'm going to give it a little bit of pushback. I agree with you, Will, that I don't know if there's too much in it that is actionable, because to me, the impression I got is that we can't change the pattern. But other than that, I loved the data. I loved the concept. I would go with Good Soup personally.
Good Soup. Okie dokie. So we got 2 blue, 1 yellow, and 1 green. Where are we thinking, ladies and germs?
Throw out the Good Soup. That's the average.
I'm good with throwing it in Galaxy Brain because 2 of you said it was up there. And I mean, I do, like I said, I did really like it.
I understand the criticism of why why it might not deserve to be with some of the other books up there, but overall, just the quality of work I think is top notch.
Okie doke. Well, we will put it there for now. We've got about we've got about 45 minutes left before Zenith has to rock.
Tell you what, I'm gonna cherry pick a few here to see if we can knock these out quickly.
Okay.
5 rings.
Let's take 30 seconds.
5 rings. 5 rings by Musashi.
5 rings. Okay.
I unfortunately think this falls into interesting.
Really? Because
there are very interesting concepts. There's a very good warrior ethos in it that I recognize, but at the same time, it's not very actionable, and it's a little difficult as well.
Okay.
I would kind of classify it as the same sort of thing as extreme ownership, except extreme ownership has more of a actionable modern take on it, whereas this was just it was the samurai way back in feudal Japan, if I remember properly.
It's absolutely a classic. I just don't know the relevance for modern times.
Yeah.
So for
me,
I had
originally put it yellow for you, Nate. I had originally put it in green myself, and I'm thinking either yellow or probably yellow for me. Nate, Mrs. Producer, what about you?
I'm actually with Zenith on this one.
In the red.
Not that it was a bad book, not that there wasn't great stuff in it, but it was a little hard to digest for me personally, and I didn't really see any of it as being very applicable to today, mostly because this is feudal era, so kind of hard to take those concepts and modernize them. Not that not that there's nothing applicable. I'm not trying to say that, but it's just a little harder to digest than a lot of the other ones.
Okay, dokie. So we'll leave it in red then. Is there any opposition?
Nope.
All right, it's an interesting book. Good stuff, but not really the best. Here's the one that I'm going to throw up next. Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. And I'm going to throw that in interesting. 1, because it's long as fuck. 2, because it tells a story of a dude who basically rode the emotional cycle, and that's what he did. And he made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, made a lot of money, lost.
He's the OG meme trader.
The OG meme trader.
The OG 5-minute chart meme trader. Shitter gets kicked out because they think he's cheating. And it's like, all right.
Not a lot of great stuff. Does anyone have any different thoughts on Reminiscences of a Stock Operator? Anyone think it's Galaxy?
No, it was boring as hell, man.
Sorry, Charlie, we love you, bro.
I don't remember it, so
exactly.
I'll go ahead and go with that.
So real quick, this is one of the recommendations from Charlie, aka Cultivate Crypto. I call him one of my crypto rich dads. There are good concepts in here. Overall, though, the book it can be summarized much quicker than you can get through the audiobook, even on triple speed, like a crackhead like me.
Don't meme trade, and
don't trade the bucket shops.
Little cycle person, yeah.
Don't get caught with your pants down trading wheat and cotton on the commodities exchange.
There we go. Next up, Millionaire Fastlane. I'm thinking this goes in either the yellow or in the red, simply because it's more or less like generic stuff on hate. Don't be a dingus. Solve people's problems. Blah da da da. Any thoughts?
I think it's yellow. It's a realistic take on how on the actual probabilities and outcomes of your life and what it's going to take to get there. It's not as instructional as $100 million offers by any stretch of the imagination, but overall, it's a very good blueprint for understanding the ways that your life can go, especially in the entrepreneurial space.
I thought it was milquetoast, but it's not one of the OG books like Rich Dad Poor Dad. So for that, just put in a few tasty morsels, probably.
Okay, Miss Producer.
I'm good with yellow on that one.
All right.
Well,
Sweet.
I don't want to break your heart on this one, but let's talk about the Toyota way.
Okay.
I think it's interesting. And I say this because as an engineer, I've studied this stuff. I think they're very interesting concepts, but overall for the cryptocurrency investor aspect, it's not super applicable. It's very good if you're doing engineering and you're trying to build consistent quality products off of a production line, but overall it's in there. Although I will say I do the what is it, the concept of muda, which is like waste, and then I forget what the fancy word for it. You did bad, so now you have to feel bad. You can't get over it. You got to feel bad, and we want you to feel bad. That's part of the process.
Yeah, that's the thing that yeah, I had this in green, but I was thinking about bumping it down to yellow. So that's essentially my thing. Is I would rather have a few tasty morsels, but you have it in interesting. This is good analyses. Nate, what are your thoughts?
I'm a bit iffy on I think I would put it in green because from what I remember from it, it highlights the proper way that corporations can treat their people.
Yeah.
Get the most out of them rather than, just pushing them past their breaking limits and then saying, "Oh, we're going to fire you if you don't do it," right? Because that's what corporations usually do. And because of that, I was like, if corporations could just listen to this type of shit and learn about it, right? However, I got to agree with Zenith on the whole crypto aspect of it. It's really not applicable to crypto, frankly. It's more real world, like I said, corporations type thing. So I'll put it down because it's not really crypto related.
Okay, doke. That's what I'm thinking as well as yellow. So we got two tepid greenish yellows from Will and Nate and a red for Z. So we'll leave it in yellow for now. Mrs. Producer, any thoughts on the Toyota way?
Sorry about that. I was running to grab a drink.
Oh, you're all good.
I agree with yellow. I'm not really too interested in assembly lines either, though, and the book talks about that a lot. So it was kind of like it didn't hold my focus very well.
Gotcha. Alrighty, cool beans.
All right, I'm gonna grab another one real quick.
Okay.
While Uncle Z's in the process of throwing things in interesting, go ahead and grab The Power of Now.
Oh.
I personally think this is a interesting book.
Interesting. Okay, that's it.
I think
had it in green personally. Go ahead.
I still believe its central tenets are somewhat conflicting within themselves, and they're a bit too woo-woo mystic for me.
Sure.
Especially considering the runtime for it and all the things it talks about. If I can't think about the future and I can't think about the past, and if I do either of those things, it ruins my experience in the now. I think that is fundamentally flawed, because part of being me means that I have to learn to be better, which means I have to learn to think about where I want to be in the future. And this book says, no, not allowed.
I think you might be reading a little bit too specifically into the
Too
analysis.
literally.
That's perfectly fine. I had it in the green simply because focusing on doing everything is now. The only time you're ever going to be living is now. Is the future is theoretical, the past is irrelevant. Other than extracting the lessons out of the past, you can't change it, you can't do anything with it. It's just information. The future is information that hasn't come to fruition yet. So living in the highest leverage perspective is the way that I interpreted this book, and I fucking loved it. Even though I was not on the book club for this, I love this book. I'd throw it in green, so I would offset your red, Zenith, with my green, and so I suppose we'll even it out into the yellow. Nate, what are your thoughts on The Power of Now?
Zenith, they're gonna hate me. I would put it in green though as
Do
well.
Do it.
Here's the reason why though.
I know I'm the weirdo on this one. It's okay.
No, here's the thing. I agree with you on the woo-woo stuff, and when I was reading that, I'm like, oh, what the hell are we talking about right now? But when I started looking at it as to how I could apply this to my own life, I was like, oh, he's got a point. Because if you start thinking about things like, hey, why am I going to sit here and think about what's going to happen next week, and why am I going to try and strategize and plan and worm my way through all these different strategies into getting to where I want to be next year? It's like, okay, I want to be there next year, but what can I do right now to start that process? What can my next step be? And then you can do some future thinking from there, and then be like, okay, well, right now, here's what I'm going to be doing. It kind of grounds you and focuses you a little bit more. And I think that's what really, really helped me quite a bit, and why I think this book deserves to be on Good Soup.
I like that. That's good, Nate. I'm right there with you, broski. Mrs. Producer, what are your thoughts on Power of Now?
All right, I am basically agreeing with both of you at the same time. The woo-woo oh my god, it so took me out of this book. I'm like, dude, can you stop? And he kept repeating it. He kept going back to it and like relating it to like God and religion. And I'm like, I love the concepts that you're saying in here. They're fantastic. I actually loved them. When he got too deep in the weeds with that, I'm like, can you stop, my guy? Like, that's enough. We get the point. So it started to really like kind of take me away from the book, especially in like the second half of it. The first half though was amazing to me. Like I loved the first half of this book. Second half, I could have dealt with if I had never read it, I'd probably have a higher opinion of this book. I'm gonna go with yellow personally.
Yellow. Okay, so we got 2 greens, a yellow, and a
Quote,
red.
if I had never read it, I probably would have a higher opinion of it.
No, the second half of it. If I had never read the second half, not the whole thing.
Okay.
I thought you were saying if I had never read this book, I'd probably think better about it.
So we've
Yeah,
got
that would
2
make a lot of
greens,
sense, wouldn't it?
2 greens, a yellow, and a red. Then, yeah, that's our consensus. Okay.
Yes, that is where we're at.
You do the math on that
We
one.
leave it in green or we move it into yellow. I'm thinking leave it in green. Nate, leave it in green. Mrs.
I
Producer,
can leave it in green. That's fine.
leave
by
it in
me.
green. Zenith, leave it in green.
I'll accept it. I'll accept it.
This is Zenith's betrayal book, like me with Rich Dad Poor Dad earlier.
That's okay. That's okay. We got
Look,
Sci-Vive underneath the power of now. I really do think that Sci-Vive should be above the power of now. But you know what? Like I am the.
That's actually a good point.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever. All right, let's talk about psychology of money.
Hey, there we go. I fixed it.
How dare you?
Psychology of
Move that
money.
back down there.
What do we got with psychology of money? I don't remember it at all.
This is a good fundamental book because it talks about the some of the basic tenets of money, and then also some of the corrosive, like psychological effects of like getting money without doing work to it. Talks about the idea of how if you start giving money to one of your children for doing nothing, they start to become reliant on it and just think it's part of just something that's already baked in. So then it kind of like cripples them from ever having the desire or drive to make additional money outside of that. For me, this is the borderline between good soup and a few tasty morsels, where it's like not everything's applicable because he talks about like, hey, you want to be rich? Get in a job that works for rich people, like dentists and accountants. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I don't remember a whole lot about psychology of money, so I just kind of threw it in a few tasty morsels because I'm pretty sure it's good. I think that my mom got it for me. Shout out to my mother.
This was also a recommendation by my mother to me.
Oh,
so,
no
like,
kidding.
Believe me, this holds a very special place for me. But overall, in comparison to everything we've read, that's where it goes.
I'm just going to jump in here really quick and say that this book seems to be a hot ticket item for moms. And what you just described, Zenith, might be why, hey, we can't just hand you money, then you won't learn how to value it. Huh. And then mom has you read this book, and you're like, huh. Okay, mom, sure.
There you
Do you think she's handing us a book to gaslight us into not buying us stuff?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe just a little bit.
All right. I think the logic is sound.
Hey, if it works, it works. What are your thoughts, though, Mr. Producer?
Exactly.
Well, I definitely don't disagree with the logic. I actually completely agree with the logic. And me being a mom, I might hand this to Soren when he's a little bit older.
Isn't there also like
think
2 entire chapters about like buying cars in this one?
I don't remember.
Pretty sure there
to be
is.
honest with you.
I don't remember. This is a very forgettable book as far as I'm
It
concerned.
was like don't buy new cars, buy used, shop around a lot to get the best deal. Saved you 2 chapters.
I mean, sound logic. Honestly, that's good advice. But I also agree with Will. I don't really remember too much of it, so I'm gonna go with yellow, just because I do remember it being good, but I also don't remember it a ton in general.
Nate, what about you, bro?
You know, I'm struggling to try and remember this, and I even just got done reading the synopsis again, and I still don't remember it. So I don't think I read this one. I'm pretty sure I was gone that day.
Possible.
Let me read some quotes. Success is a lousy teacher because she seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. Wanting to believe that we are in control is a mental itch that needs to be scratched. We need to believe we live in a predictable world, so we turn to authoritative people who fulfill that need. These sound like very forgettable quotes to me. So what do you say we leave it in yellow?
Yeah, I'm still not remembering. I'm pretty sure I didn't read this one.
We don't even have a full page of notes on it in the Telegram, so it's like there's not a lot for me to grab onto here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. So I'm just nothing. I'm a nothing.
Okay.
Here.
Sweet.
Yellow's
Yellow
fine.
Yellow it stays. All right, next, The One Thing by Gary Keller. I think that this is definitely in the greens. I think that it's a good thing. Focus on one thing at a fucking time. We're not meant to multitask. Do your thing, get it done, and then do the next thing.
I think that the book hamstrings itself because it's called The One Thing, and it really only has one thing going for it, which is its central tenet about do the most important thing first. So for me, it's a yellow.
Yellow. Okay. Nate.
Still
Man,
very
this is
good, very good, very important, but a yellow.
It's
I know Nate likes this one.
Yeah.
It's a good book.
It is, you know. I mean, I gotta agree with you, Zenith. It's like, yeah, he does talk about one thing. So, like, all right, but
Man
like
writes 250 pages on one thing. Titles it "The One Thing."
Hey, I mean,
on the back cover page is "The One Thing."
Go ahead, Nate.
Oh, bro. For me personally, it's a really good way for people who are trying to multitask and do tons of different things all at the same time. This book is literally the magnum opus of like, how can I not do that and actually get stuff done? Because it's really easy for someone, especially like me, to have a ton of projects going on and be like halfway done with all of them, never actually complete them. And so the book really is like, hey, specifically look at exactly which one is first and then go down the line. Don't worry about all these other things, right? It's a really good way to hyper focus you. Here's the other thing too. This book blends perfectly with the second brain. If you take those two books and you put them together, this is why I put both of these books in Galaxy Brain. It's because if you put these two books together and you actually utilize it in real life, you can become extremely efficient and a hyper productive human being.
That's an excellent point, Nate. I like that. I also had building a second brain in Galaxy Brain area. So like I'm down to move the one thing up. Zenith, you said you had one thing in yellow.
I did, although I'm going to be kind of a weirdo here, and I'm going to say I actually had building a second brain in interesting.
Really?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, but at the same time, it's like it's nothing crazy. It's just like explaining what you theoretically could have thought for yourself.
Fair enough.
You're like, yeah, use your phone, take notes, make things searchable.
And Nate's got the two of them together up here. Okay.
The big hamstring for me with building a second brain is like, yes, all of this makes sense. There is very, very few people who will actually go through the work and do that.
I do it. Mrs. Producer, let's hear your thoughts.
Zenith, to counterpoint that, if
Please
people
do.
read this book, maybe they would do it though. So maybe if people had this concept, because they might not understand it, you know what I mean? And your points are very valid. But for me, the one thing and building a second brain, they go back to kind of what I was saying before about how truly helpful they can be to people who might not have, thought of these things beforehand. When I was
Makes
reading
sense.
the one thing, I was talking to one of my friends who was overwhelmed with work, and she was telling me all about how her doing all these different things, and it's like just so frustrating, and she can't remember it all, and she's just doing so much. And I'm like, would you take a book recommendation from me? And she's like, curious. I don't think she actually read it, unfortunately, but she heard me out. And so I told her about this, and I told her kind of how the book works, that it's just about figuring out what the most important thing is that will make the other things that you're all these other things that you're trying to do no longer necessary. Trying to figure out the most important things that take the rest of them out of the picture pretty much, because once you do that big thing, the rest of them are like so much smaller now, or they're accomplished through doing the big thing. So for me, the one thing was really, really important to me, because that was something that I do all the time. I try to do too many things, and I don't think about like which task is actually, should be the top priority. So it helped me a lot to kind of figure that out. And then, I relayed that to her. Like I said, I don't think she read the book, but I did give her the general concept, and she said, yeah, that sounds really great and makes a lot of sense. Building a second brain, I don't think I read, so I can't weigh in on that one. Or I think I got through part of it, maybe. I can't remember exactly, but I do remember the concept of basically just having somewhere to write down all the things you're trying to think about rather than keeping them all in your head is great. But again, it's very simple, so I agree with you there. But also, if somebody doesn't think of that, this could help them a lot. So I am comfortable with putting them in green. But if you guys want to fight for blue, then, I could possibly persuade it for that one.
I'm down to put both in blue. I understand your point about building a second brain being like pretty normal stuff, Zenith. I would throw it in green simply because it's like you will never forget anything in your life if you write the important stuff down. And if you're doing one thing at a time and you're keeping track of it and you're keeping track of the next thing you need to do and all the stuff that's necessary in order to get there, and you're using your second brain to manage your projects, your areas, your resources, and your archives, and you're building that system, that code system of catalog, organize. Oh shoot, I can't remember the D and the E. That doesn't fucking matter. The pair is the most important one. The way to like to sort things that are by actionability and stuff. I think that it's definitely worthy of putting those into the galaxy brain. It's not exactly the craziest concept in the world. It's not exactly the freshest thing. It's just basically the obvious advice that no one ever does. You know, that's go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Will.
I was finished.
Okay, I just want to say this reminds me of those old V8 commercials. You guys remember those? Where it's like somebody does
Grab
something really
V8.
dumb and then somebody just smacks them in the head and you're like, should have had a V8. That's what that book reminds me of. Like, it's super obvious advice, but so many people probably wouldn't have thought about it if they hadn't had this book or somebody come up to them and be like, hey, this is what you need to do.
Yep. What do you think about split the difference, one thing in Galaxy Brain and building a second brain in Good Soup? Thoughts on that? Objection, Z? I can see that smile of objection.
I'll allow it.
You'll allow it?
I'm happy for you guys to disagree with me. This is where we get good discussion.
Okay, excellent. I did move Sci-Vive up into Good Soup earlier, so you just let me know if you need me to do
I saw that.
Oh, here's an idea. At the very end of it, we all get one objection where we can move one thing, and I've already used mine. So there we go. You can bump one thing by one tier.
Make up a rule so that you can move it around.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
All right, next one. We've got The Anatomy of the State by Murray Rothbard. I'm going to put this in a few tasty morsels. It's really great, but it's basically like, hey, don't let the government like run your life. The end. Any objections?
I think it does a little bit more eloquent job of describing it than that. And the interesting thing is that this is actually your recommendation, and you're putting it here, but I'm going to put it in Good Soup. I loved it. I understand. I'm a little more interested in like the political history and philosophy stuff of like building nations and governments, but I think this is a very well written book. The concepts are very good, and especially in kind of the current context, I think it's very applicable.
Yes,
I
liked it because of the personal aspect, not because of the government aspect. So, like, I think that we both like it for those two reasons. Nate, what about you? Thoughts on Anatomy of the State?
I think there's a lot of actionable things in it, especially when it comes to like crypto. Because remind me if I'm thinking of a different book, but this is the book that talks about how the government's trying to control you and how you're able to basically get around like in the loopholes and get around it, and how you live as a free person. And so I think this is highly applicable to crypto people in general. So yeah, I'm gonna put it in Good Soup.
Good Soup. Okay, this is producer. Have any thoughts? And then the next one we're gonna hop into is Sovereign Individual because it has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Keep it in Good Soup. I think that the perversion of the government is something that is happening right now and something that people should at least be aware of. So I definitely think it's an important thing for people to read. Excellent.
I like it. The next one we have is a Sovereign Individual, which is more about individuality and things. I put this up in Galaxy Brain. I'm open to throwing it into Good Soup, but my preference would be Galaxy Brain. Zenith, what's your thoughts on the Sovereign Individual? Nice and quickly if you can.
Galaxy Brain. It's an excellent history of, this is another cycle theory of history kind of book. And it talks about the coming ages and how there's transitions and changes and how there's kind of a life cycle to each of them. But the interesting thing for me about this one is it was written in 1990, and for the coming information age, it nailed a lot of the stuff that it predicted, like cryptocurrency, telemedicine. The only thing it really got wrong was the idea of like the metaverse being just as in step with all the rest of these things. And as it stands today, the metaverse is still kind of a laughingstock, to be honest. But overall, this is a fantastic book, and I still will never forget. I was reading this on audiobook, and it's talking about the idea of there will come a day when nation states will try to fight individuals who they feel have the same amount of power. And as I was reading that, the U.S. government was trying to accuse Elon Musk of being a traitor for not just giving them Starlink to give to the Ukrainian war. I was like, that's wild.
I like it. So blue for Zenith and I. Nate, what are your thoughts on sovereign individual?
Blue. This is I made a list before the show of literally listing out my #1 favorite all the way down, and guess what #1 is?
Sovereign individual.
This
Dude,
book,
It's a good book.
I've gone through it a couple of times now, and every single time, all I'm thinking is like, okay, this gives me not only like what to do, but also like a roadmap of what could more than likely is going to be coming. So then I can start planning ahead as well. So that way I can, take the one thing and start moving towards that plan.
I like it. Mrs. Producer, sovereign individual.
Sovereign individual. I want to push back against Z a little bit here because he also predicted a lot of stuff about Y2K, and none of that happened as far as I know. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that one out there.
That's fair. Gotta take your lumps. I'll take my lumps.
Other than that, though, I agree with you guys. Galaxy Brain for this one. He predicts a lot of very great things that do indeed happen, and just in general, this book was fantastic. So.
Next up, we've got The Law by Frederick Bastiat, and that's going into interesting. And this is because Zenith betrayed us and didn't have us on the book club with him. He had an outsider. Just kidding. It was a good book club. I don't remember anything about it because I didn't read it because I don't think there was an audible for this one, right?
I believe there was.
There was one of these
Yes.
books that did not have an audible for it.
That was The Great Wave.
That's the one. That's right. Okay, I don't remember anything about The Law by Frederick Bastiat, so it's in the red for me. Zenith, go ahead and change my opinion real quick.
This is Galaxy Brain because everything that Bastiat wrote about liberty and government in 1840 something during the French Revolution is absolutely the fundamentals of DeFi and libertarian values at its core. It's the idea that the government is really only there to protect three things: life, liberty, and property. That's right, not pursuit of happiness. Old school John Locke property, baby. That's what it is. They talk about the downfalls of communism. They talk about all the different ways and the logical trains of thought of what the government ought to do, and all the failed trains of thought about what people believe the government should do based on their little injection of feelings in there. And then also, this is a very good book. And for reference, this guy wrote this probably like 20 years before the Civil War. And he specifically looked over at the United States and was like, the United States is probably doing this whole liberty thing the absolute best. The only abject glaring thing is that whole slavery thing, but they probably will fight each other over it at some point in the future. Little did he know it would be 20 years later. Yeah.
Yep. One of my favorite quotes from this is, the safest way to make laws respected is to make them respectable. So yes, I do remember this. I was in a tower over in Auburn, Indiana when I was listening to this one. And then think less of punishing folks and more of encouraging what you need as like a governing body. So I do remember this one. I was thinking of a totally different one here, so I placed it in the wrong category. So you were saying Galaxy Brain?
Yes, Bastiat, in my personal opinion, is one of the most prevalent libertarian-minded thinkers in history, and a lot of what he echoes is also the same sentiments that you see in DeFi. So for me, that's why it's up there.
Okay, Nate, and then Mrs. Producer.
Sounds like a book I should read. I was gone that day.
Yeah, I remember.
It's not too long, thankfully.
Yes, Mrs. Producer, do you have thoughts on The Law?
The Law. I am not a historic person, and I am also not a. I don't really I don't do anything with politics, quite frankly. So, unfortunately, I did not understand it very much, and it didn't stick with my brain basically at all because of that. But I know Zenith absolutely loved it. I know that the special guest Christian, I think Christian Hines was his name.
Christian Hines, what a guy, what a stud. Mr. 1.3 Bitcoin himself. He's doing very well right now, by the way.
Good, glad to hear it. He absolutely adored it. So going off of their recommendations and being that they are history buffs and they do know these politics, I'm happy to leave it in Galaxy Brain. Just because I didn't understand it doesn't mean it wasn't fantastic. And I'm sure that if I did know more about this, I probably would have loved it just as much.
I think I was confusing my memory of the book. I do remember that Zenith had the Mr. Chris on, but I'm confusing the not reading it with a different one. So that was probably no. I did read The Great Wave. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But let's leave it up in blue and move on to the next one. Next is the Ideal Team Player. I'm gonna put that in green. What are you guys' thoughts on the Ideal Team Player?
Personally, the ideal team player, I would definitely put this in Galaxy Brain for sure. It's
Yeah,
just
I'm almost right there with you, bro.
yeah. This right here is really good for your average person to be able to read. I do believe that this book, I mean, it really teaches you actionable things that you can do to actively try to become a team player, right? Humble, hungry, smart, things like that, right? Balancing all three virtues. Just when you're able to put these together, well, you're able to be likable and able to work with a team. And it's definitely something that I do believe every single person who works for any company needs to read. This is should be what do you call that? Necessary
Mandatory reading.
Mandatory reading. Thank you. Yep. Yeah, it needs to be that. That's what I want.
Excellent. Mrs. Producer?
I'm with Nate. This was definitely one of my top favorites of all times. It hit every button for me, though, to be fair. I love the books that have an actual story because I attach to those way better than I do to somebody just telling me concepts and ideas of do this, do that. Those don't stick in my brain very well. Having a story that puts the actions into oh god, I'm completely missing the words on this one, but you get the point. The story really
Yes.
stood out to me. I absolutely loved it. The concepts came in at the end. They were great. I agreed with everything that he had to say. It's definitely a book that I think will become one of my personal readings. I don't really reread books very often, but so far I have reread Rich Dad Poor Dad and then How to Win Friends and Influence People. This one's going to be in that list now that I'll reread it every now and again.
Excellent. Zenith, thoughts on ideal player? And we're going to have to start going into speed round here where we spend about 1 minute on each book to get through them all.
Correct. So this one I actually did not read, but I did read the next one, which is 5 Dysfunctions of Team. I thought that one was fantastic. For all the same reasons you guys were raving about that book, that's the same reasons why I like this book a lot. I don't know if I'm going to put it Galaxy Brain. I'd absolutely put it Good Soup because I think it's a phenomenal story that tells very real human descriptions, and it's very applicable, and it describes the core competencies very well.
All right. I would agree
Yeah.
with Good Soup for the 5 dysfunctions because it was just a little bit less effective than the ideal team player, but I like where your head's at. Nate?
Yeah, I would say it's Galaxy Brain because it's the other side of the coin, in my personal opinion. I mean, when you're looking at the 5 dysfunctions, absence of truth, fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, inattention to results, things like that. When you're actually diving deep into these, that can technically help you be able to be a better team player because you're able to see the issues that actually happen within the culture of the team itself. And so what you want to do is you actually kind of like a second brain and the one you want to actually combine these together to become basically the best version you can possibly can.
I like it. Mrs. Producer, Galaxy Brain or Good Soup, something like that for 5 dysfunctions.
Yeah, one or the other. I'm good with either one. I do agree with you, Will, that it was a little bit less applicable than the ideal team player, but I absolutely loved it still. They were both really great. So
I do agree they
I would
both go
say
together.
I would say to make a final decision, I would go Galaxy Brain with it.
Okay. Galaxy Brain. All right, we'll throw it up and we'll leave it in Galaxy Brain simply because they are pretty much a package deal. They are really good together. Highly recommend everyone read them. Next up, we've got The Road to Serfdom by Friedrich Hayek. 15 seconds, everybody. Zenith, you start.
It's a few tasty morsels. It's excellent thought, and it's the basis of the Austrian School of Economics. But at the same time, I don't know if you needed 18 hours of an audiobook to convey all the ideas. Very good, absolute classic. Few tasty morsels.
I like it. I personally had it in interesting because I don't remember anything from it. But I'm fine with a few tasty morsels. Nate, what are your thoughts? 15 seconds.
I would say interesting because there's not too much that I pulled out of it that made me go, wow, this is life-changing.
Okay, we got 2 red. Mrs. Producer.
Very fair.
I unfortunately don't remember it at all, but I'm going to give Zenith the benefit of the doubt and think it was very good and go ahead with yellow.
Okay, a few tasty morsels it is. Next up, we got The Warrior Ethos by Stephen Pressfield. I had this all the way up in Galaxy Brain. I fucking love the Warrior Ethos. I think doing war is awesome, and having a good ethos is also awesome. I put it in blue. Zenith, 15 seconds.
Pass. Didn't read it.
Didn't read it. Nate.
Yeah, I don't remember this one at all. I don't think I read it that day.
Mrs. Producer.
I remember it having fantastic concepts, but I also don't remember too much from it. I'm so sorry, Will. So I'm personally going to lean towards Good Soup.
Good soup. Okay. The verdict is in. Good soup for not memory, lack of reading, and just general goodness. I like it. Next up, we've got Bachelor Pad Economics by Aaron Clary. I'm going to throw it in a few tasty morsels or good soup. It's kind of a toss-up for me. A few tasty morsels, just my default. Zenith, 15 seconds.
Same. This is Poor Richard's Retirement, but the textbook version. It's a lot more thought out. Stats are provided, and there's a few more topics explored. Overall, though, very good. Still, I think that borderline.
Nate?
Yeah, I'm there with Zenith on yellow. I think it was not exactly applicable to where I'm currently at, but it's really good for newer people who are coming into the financial learning.
Excellent. And
For
it does
sure.
have lots of reference points. Mrs. Producer, 15 seconds.
I remember being vaguely offended by some points in this one, even though I don't remember what they were. So I'm gonna stick with the tasty morsels. That's fair.
Excellent.
Shout
That
out to
was
Cappy.
Yep. Shout out to Cappy,
Yeah,
Aaron
right.
Clary of the Red Pill Manosphere. He definitely does not hold back when it comes to delivering messages in a way that make people feel good. Next up, we've got The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey, and this talks about how to become trustworthy. I think it's Galaxy Brain. Let me get your guys' thoughts. Zenith, 15 seconds. Galaxy?
Galaxy Brain. It takes a concept of trust, which is very nebulous and abstract, and gives you a perfect, dare I say, explanation of the calculations of everything that goes into it and the ways that the concepts of trust can build upon each other to go from you as an individual to a network to a society as a whole. Galaxy Brain
agree.
all day.
Nate, 15
I'm
seconds.
going to agree. This is a book that I need to read again and continue to implement into my life because, ascending. And yeah, so I just got to read it again.
100%. I like it. Mrs. Producer, 15 seconds.
I'm going to put this one in Galaxy Brain because the fantastic RG3 recommended it to us. No, the real reason, the idea of the trust banks really stuck with me. And I absolutely think that we should revisit this one on another book club because I don't think we did it justice when we did it the first time. And I think it's absolutely worth doing again. I will put this one also in the same class with Rich Dad Poor Dad and the other books I mentioned earlier as one that I'm going to continually be rereading throughout the rest of my life.
So let it be written. So let it be done. We will cover
we gotta
it again.
revisit this one. I
like
want to
it.
say
I
this
like
was
it.
episode number 5.
Yeah, I think so. This is when we were very first starting. So we'll definitely go over it again now that we're a little bit more seasoned. All right, next up we've got The Value of Others by Chris or Orion Taraban. The Value of Others. I think this one's pretty good. I'm going to put it in a good soup meme because it talks about why other people are valuable. I don't remember a whole lot about it. I know that it was good though. Zenith, 15 seconds.
If I recall correctly, this was our Red Pill book. I think this goes in, interesting. Everything. I agree with the premises and the lines of logic laid out.
This
but
is the Captain
overall,
and the Passenger book.
Correct. This is the Captain and the Passenger book. Overall, I think that this book it's good. It makes sense. It's not very applicable to the crypto stuff, and overall, it's very much it's very specified towards being a dude.
Yeah.
So.
Fair enough. Nate, 15 seconds.
Good stuff, though.
Yeah, I would agree with you. This book is really good in teaching you how to be open to other people, which is very important, especially with ideas and concepts. So I would say that is the crypto aspect of it. However, you could also say, maybe you're kind of stretching there. So let's go ahead and throw it in yellow.
Yellow? Okay. I had green, Nate yellow, Zenith red. So average is yellow. Mrs. Producer, 15 seconds.
I unfortunately don't remember too much about this one. What I do remember is thinking it was going to be about something that it was absolutely not about and being disappointed by that. So from my vague memory, I thought it was going to be something different. And so for me, I'm going to go with interesting because it just didn't hit the mark of my expectations, I guess.
Fair
Look
enough.
at that. The power of that's your power of now. You thought it was going to be about choosing decisions expediently and you got something completely different.
Excellent. We'll throw it in there because I do remember thinking that the book was going to be a little bit different than it was. It was still great as far as I'm concerned, but it's not really crypto applicable. Next up, we've got The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. I'm going to throw this one in a few tasty morsels. Zenith, 15 seconds.
I completely agree. It's unfortunate that I'm not trying to be the sovereign of a 15th century country or nation state at the time, if you will. But at the same time, though, this is the fundamental political philosophical thought. There's a reason that when the idea of Machiavellianism is a thing, and it's all thanks to this guy, because he writes about how to be politically expedient politically expedient, morals be damned.
Yep. Shout out to our good friend Cesare Borgia. Nate, 15 seconds. Thoughts on The Prince?
This is a lot like the views of others. This is no, sorry, that's the wrong thing I was talking about. No, this book is really good in identifying kind of how people are treating you for the most part. So I do think that this is definitely in yellow. I don't remember too much more of it though, so that's kind of
raise your own army. Don't use mercenaries. They have no loyalties to you.
Yeah,
or is that? Okie dokie. Mrs. Producer, The Prince?
I am not trying to be a prince. I have never tried to be a prince. This is not something I will ever experience or that will ever be applicable to me.
Touché.
So I'm going to go with red, but I'm also fine with you guys leaving it in the yellow. I do know that they talk a lot about whether or not it's better to be feared or loved. And that was an interesting conversation. So I'm okay with the bump up to yellow.
Okie doke. We'll leave it in yellow. Next up, we've got Debt by David Graeber. This is a long fucking book. There was a lot of great stuff in here, and then there was a lot of like not so excellent drawn out explanations. I'm throwing it in yellow because there's a good couple of tasty morsels, but it was a very long book, and his whole thesis about debt being the first currency is, I think, pretty damn good. So it's my thoughts. Zenith?
I had major issues with this book personally, not for the concepts about it talked about, but I think that it was logically inconsistent, which is that he gives you a great explanation of his own version of cycle history, if you will, the difference between market cycles versus like human capital cycles and how there's an ebb and flow between them, and whether or not the debt you incur is numerical or it's moral between your fellow man. But I think the last two chapters about his idea for the future completely contradict the entire history he lays out. So for me, it's interesting.
Yeah, that's the same thing I ended up running into. Was the first, what was it? The first like 80% of the book is just like history of like
it's good stuff
with humans, which is interesting. Yes,
and then he kind of just fumbles it on the 1 yard line.
Yeah, I think the conclusion you're like, wait, what's going on here? Okay, yeah, sure, that's what you think.
I skipped over those parts. Mrs. Producer, what are your thoughts? I'm fine with leaving it in red. Miss Producer?
Okay, so for me, this was another one that was about cycles, and I personally found it absolutely fascinating that the debt cycle has existed for like basically forever.
Oh yeah.
So for me, that was really interesting stuff. I completely agree that the later end of the book was like I don't even remember it. So yeah, I'm good with tasty morsels personally.
Tasty morsels. Okay, we'll leave it in tasty morsels because it's close enough. It had a lot of good stuff in it. We're going to ignore the shitty parts and just going to pretend that those didn't happen. And that's that. Next up, we got The Great Wave, the super duper long fucking book that also did not have an audio or.
What are you talking about? This is only like 200. This is like 200 pages.
You're right. Forget the things that I've said. I'm conflating a whole bunch of different things here. The Great Wave. I'm gonna send it to you, Zenith. I don't remember this one at all, so I have it in interesting.
This, for me, is Galaxy Brain. This is right up there with Sovereign Individual. It is a cycle theory historical book talking about how the cycles, or in this case, the waves, are inflation-driven. There are times of zero inflation, unnoticed inflation, rapid inflation, and then conflict, deflation, and then you restart. And it really talks about the difference between going from like early 1100s all the way through the Black Death, then up to the Renaissance, then up to the Enlightenment, then to the Victorian era, and now into the current time. The funny thing is that this book was actually written in the 80s or 90s, I want to say, and they were talking about, wow, we really saw a lot of inflation under that Nixon guy. Hopefully that's the worst of it. And it's like, oh, you ain't seen nothing yet, boy.
Okie dokie. So blue for Zenith. Nate, what are your thoughts on The Great Wave?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Zenith. However, I would put it in good soup because I believe it's one of those books that goes hand in hand with a changing world, as well as reminiscence of a stock operator. I think it's all about, the cycles of how things go. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was a stock operator, but I might have been thinking of one of the other ones because I remember we have 3 books that we read that were basically like together like this. And actually, it might have been that. But I think it does definitely belong with Changing World Order. So
okay.
In my mind, there's 3 books that are really linked together, and it's Sovereign Individual, Changing World Order by Ray Dalio, and this one. These 3 books all try to tackle history and understandable patterns that are repeatable into the future. They all have their own individual unique twist on it, but the way that they're interpreted and explained, they all make sense and seem like it's kind of like those like wave theories together, where it's like you were looking at 2 different waves, but when they come together, that's where you get drastic effect in either way, and then they spread apart and they keep doing their own thing, and then every once in a while they all meet up together and you get these really big impacts.
So it's like
that's why
books that you need to read.
exactly. I think these books, they're all they're similar, and I think they're well thought out and researched, and they have a lot of data in them too, which I really appreciate. So that's why I'm pretty sure I put all 3 of these in Galaxy Brain, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
This is producer thoughts, and we got to cut times down to 10 seconds, guys. We're getting close. Mrs. Producer, thoughts on the Great Wave, Galaxy or Good Soup?
This is the one we had to physically read, right?
Yes.
Okay, I watched like a 10-minute synopsis video. I have no opinions on this one. I'm sorry. I didn't really basically read it, so I don't feel like it would be fair for me to weigh in. So you guys go ahead and decide.
Okay. I'm going to leave it in Good Soup. Any objections? Move it up.
This is my personal favorite book that we've written. Or it's
right.
either this
I'm
or
putting
it's
it
the
in
one
Galaxy.
coming up.
I'm leaving it in Galaxy for expediency of time. Next, we've got 15 ways to fix the world. I'm going to throw it in Good Soup. Any
A
objections?
few tasty morsels.
Few tasty
I think we
morsels,
already
Lizzie?
talked about this book. What was the other one called? Sci-fi? Basically
Sci-fi.
the exact same thing.
Yeah, what was that thing? What was that? What was
Okay,
that sci-fi
Mr.
thing?
Producer.
Morsels.
Apologies to SJ.
Didn't
All
love
right,
it.
we will leave it in morsels. Richard, you did great. Moving on. Outwitting the Devil. I'm throwing this up in Galaxy Brain. This shit's fucking good stuff.
Absolutely.
I concur.
Mr. Producer?
Yep, loved it.
All right, sweet. Next, how to avoid trouble with the IRS. Sorry, Mom, I love you. A few tasty morsels. None of us are business owners yet. So once we become business owners, this might be super duper relevant. But until then, this is great information for the masses. Not so great for us specifically. But like for any of our audience members out there that are business owners, you guys need to read this book because there's 10 things that everybody fucking does wrong. The most important one is starting your own business bank account, right? So this is like steps to avoid for noobs. Few good tasty morsels is what I got. Any objections?
No, apologies to Mrs. Stevenson. I'm a big fan of all your works, including your writings and the physical works as well. They're top notch.
Excellent.
I object. I'm going to be more loyal to your mother than you are. I say it's Galaxy Brain.
Galaxy Brain. Okay, we're gonna throw it in Good Soup. Mom, you're good
Perfect.
soup. I fucking love you, Mom. All right, sweet. Next up, we've got The Millionaire Next Door. I don't remember
Good
this
soup.
one.
Good soup.
Nate?
This was a recommendation from my mother, actually, and I think it's very applicable.
My
This was the
mother
one
did buy
talks-
me the physical copy of this. Nate, what are your thoughts?
This is the one where they were talking about like you never know that you're living right next to a millionaire because they have a tendency to just live normal lives. It's just they have a lot of money. Okay.
T-shirt and jeans millionaires.
Good
Net
soup.
worth.
I'd put it as yellow. You know, it was an interesting read, but I don't think it's worth the interesting because there's some good stuff in it. When you do get that kind of money that maybe you could apply to your own life, you know.
Mrs. Producer?
This book basically tells you save, 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 put all your money away, don't do anything fun. I'm going to go ahead and agree with good few tasty morsels because if I live that way, what the hell is the point of having money?
Okie dokie. Excellent.
Agreed.
We're gonna leave it.
As a real quick point, Millionaire Fastlane is the expansion of this book. This is the original. Millionaire Fastlane says, okay, cool. You don't want to save money to be a millionaire. Here's how you can earn to be a millionaire while you're like mid-30s. That's where they fit together.
The Millionaire Fastlane. I don't even see where that's on. Oh, okay. Never mind. It's right over here. All right. Next up, we've got How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I'm putting
To
this
the
in
top,
Galaxy
sir.
Brain.
To the top.
Nate?
Well done, Dale. This is a fantastic book.
Absolutely.
Galaxy.
I do have one problem with this, and I think this is my own brain. The issue is that I've read this book several times, and it's still everything in it kind of eludes me a little bit. So my understanding of what he's talking about is really difficult for me to pick up, and that's just me.
Excellent. Mr. Producer, any objections to winning people in Galaxy?
Oh, absolutely Galaxy Brain. I've read this book like 4 or 5 times. I love it. Absolutely my
Alrighty.
top favorite out of everything we've gone through.
Sweet. Next, we got The Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort. I'm going to throw it in either good soup or tasty morsels. I'm leaning towards tasty morsels, but there's some really good neurolinguistic programming stuff in there, so I'm open to put it in good soup.
I did
Zenith?
not read it, so my vote is out.
I echo everything you just said, except I put it in, interesting.
Okay. Mrs. Producer?
I actually really liked that one. I would say green. Green or yellow is
Green?
good with me.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. Well, I'm bumping it up to green, so haha, take that, Zenith. Next, and finally, we got Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, author of Outwitting the Devil. Think and Grow Rich. What are our thoughts?
Good soup.
Good soup?
Yeah,
Good
I would
soup.
agree. I would agree totally.
Mr. Producer?
I feel really bad, but I actually forgot this one. I didn't
Me
realize
too.
we'd read it.
Me too. I forgot about it. I had it in a few tasty morsels, simply because I had to go through
Really?
and look at the Telegram thing, and I still don't remember what it was about.
This is Napoleon Hill's first work. So this is the thing that Napoleon Hill released after studying Dale Carnegie, but before Outwitting the Devil. This is the book where he kind of blends together in what I think is an effective way, Millionaire Next Door and The Power of Now, which is that the first half of the book is talking about how to think and grow rich in ways that are more physical and manifestable. And the last ones kind of get more towards that like mental and then almost spiritual realm as well. This is the idea. One of the key components of this book is the brain trust, which is you need to get together with the people that you trust, that you think are a good group of people to bounce ideas off of, and then really wrestle on it. And then because of that, you already inherently trust these people. You think they're smart folks, and you hope to learn from them. These are the people you want to wrestle the ideas with. The brain trust. This is a good one.
I like it. I like it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our tier list. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Oh, we got to log in. Oh, that's fucking gay. All right, well, I'm just going to download the image then. So I already have an account.
Okay.
How
do we feel about this?
How do we feel about it? Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. Final movements. Does anyone want to move one thing, one tier distance? I've already moved Sci-Vive up one.
I also moved the Great Wave to the top.
You'll move the Great Wave to the top. Where's that at?
It's already up there. I already did it.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
Nate?
Yeah, building a second brain to the top.
Building a second brain to the top. I approve of that. This is producer.
I can't really think of anything I want to move.
Move sci-fi.
Yeah, I moved Sci-Fi back down.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Will. I'll leave it there for Will's sake.
I love Sci-Vive. I'm gonna actually there's more stuff having to do with Sci-Vive that I'm going to be looking into. So more information on that in the future as it comes.
Fair enough.
Mr. Producer, do you have anything that you want to do for your final thing before we have to say goodbye to Zenith and I take a picture of this?
No, I think I'm good to leave it as is. The only thing I have is I truly do not believe Sci-Fi deserves to be in good soup. I'm sorry, Will. I really don't think it deserves to be there. But again, I'll leave it there for your sake. I know you loved it.
That's perfectly fine. Yes, you don't have to think correctly. That is okay. Not everyone gets to have.
You don't have to think correctly.
Are you hitting us with the famous Will Stevenson? Not everyone likes gay sex thing.
You're the one that said it, not me.
You're the one that said it like 4 times before I said it. Maybe not this stream, but like.
And then Will's, what are your favorite parts of the pizza? But you got to have them all together. And we just immediately like jump down, like, nah, cheese. Cheese is the best part. And he's like, the sauce, the crust, or the toppings.
Parts of the pizza? I don't remember this.
Yeah, the sauce.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and throw this this beautiful picture into our general. This is the stream official opinion. Let's see, opinion tier list.
I'm happy with this. I'm very happy with this.
Pasting it. I'm happy with it too. I think it's great. For the folks at home, you guys can go and create your own little list, Mrs. Producer. I'm going to end the share screen right meow, and I suppose we will go ahead and push to end the show or something along those lines. For the folks at home, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link. This is the book club list. Bam.
The only thing I want to throw in here is Zenith said he's very happy with the list. And I want to go ahead and say, yes, I agree with that. And I'm also very, very happy and very proud that all of us immediately Galaxy Brains How to Win Friends and Influence People. That made me so happy. Like when Rich Dad Poor Dad got knocked down a notch, I was like, why? I'm so sad. Tears of agony over here. And then we all immediately agreed on, like, my other top favorite. So that was great.
True.
This is excellent.
Sure. So,
All
folks,
right.
for the folks at home, I apologize. I am the reason that we actually are cutting this one a little bit short today because doing friends and family stuff for Christmas time. So,
You can
with
go
that
ahead
being
and
said,
hop out. Where can the folks
we'll
find you? What do
do,
you got going on in the near future?
folks, zenithdi on Instagram and Twitter. Catch me over there. And then on Mondays, I'm helping launch the Walk the Block YouTube channel. We're trying to make it a show for somebody of every skill level and trying to make it applicable and showable to everybody, from your 13-year-old cousin to your nana. It's for everybody. Hope to see you over there. Boys, Mrs. Producer, this has been fantastic. Y'all are the best. Adios.
Get out of here, Zenith. I'll go ahead and I'll round up this show. We'll do some chat shout-outs and things. It's been great having you, broski. All right, guys. So the next thing that we have to do is we have to talk about what's going to be the next book for book club. And I do believe that I'm hosting next week, which is, let me take a look. That would be the 27th of December, 2 days after Christmas. Are you guys opposed to doing a book club 2 days after Christmas? Is that something you think you could swing?
Oh, that sounds fine to me.
Sounds fine
Say
to you?
2 days after Christmas.
Yeah, the 27th of December. I will be free. I'll be available. So I'm down to do it with you guys if you're, and I'll hit up Zenith in the private comments and
I
things
think I
as
should.
well.
I got a Christmas party with my my company, but yeah, I'll see.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. What time is that?
Yeah, see, I don't think it's going late. That's the deal. So for now, I am available.
Okay, sweet. And if we need to reschedule, no sweat. We can always reschedule. But as of now, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the book suggestions, and it looks like our good friend Moonpilled Rational Optics, as always, is being super duper fantastic and giving us many suggestions. So we've got a couple things. We've also got oh man, there's so many things we got.
Can we please do the Curse of the High IQ?
The Curse of the High IQ. That's what I was.
Yeah.
That's what I was leaning on. Yeah. Okay. So next book that we're gonna do is from Aaron Clary, and it is The Curse of the High IQ, which is a fantastic. Oh man, I think I might. So I don't have a whole lot of physical books, but let me walk on over to my shelf over here. I believe I have this. I do. Oh my God, guys, I've got a physical book. Isn't that fucking something? Look at that. Look at that.
Damn, I'm
pretending to
impressed, and
read.
it's not your cookbook.
Yeah, and it's actually got words in it. It's not a fake book. Look, here's a
Oh my
picture
gosh.
of Aaron Clary, and I'm guessing his niece or something like that. But anyways, this is Aaron Clary's book about after 15 years in banking, Aaron Clary learned that work sucks, life is short, and was not meant to be spent in a cube suffering idiot bosses. Instead, he decided to pursue a career in ballroom dancing, booze, chasing skirts, motorcycle riding, and hedonism. Ironically, this led to the most legitimate work as an author and consultant. But Aaron only pursues his newfound career half-heartedly in order to continue his hedonistic lifestyle. He will, however, put it all on hold to enjoy ice cream with his niece. So there you guys go. A little bit about the author, Aaron Clary, an excellent amigo, one of the OGs on Rule Zero of the Manosphere, podcast that used to star folks such as Rollo Tomasi, Ryan Stone, Jack Napier's on it now, I believe. I did some work for them back in the day. I made an archive website. I don't know if it's still up. You guys can check out rulezeroarchive.com. I don't know if I still have the domain up and running, but I created an archive for them. So if you guys are ever looking for any Rule Zero website or episodes, you can go to rulezeroarchive.com, or at least you used to be able to. Again, I don't know how long the domain's up for, but I took all of their episodes and I put it all there. So it's basically just a link archive. But anyways, Aaron Clary, super awesome cat, super cool dude. I love all those dudes over there on Rule Zero. They're all freaking awesome. You should go follow every single one of them and take their advice as readily as you need it. So that's what we'll be doing for next week. Is we'll be covering The Curse of the High IQ by Aaron Clary, hosted by myself. I suppose this is as good a time as any to end this segment before we hop off the show and everything. Do you guys have any final thoughts, Nate or Mrs. Producer?
Yeah, I don't think we did Outwitting the Devil justice. That was one of my favorite books because I've got that.
Outwitting the Devil.
That one is my.
What do you mean we didn't do it justice? We put that in Galaxy Brain.
I know, but we also just said, yeah, that's the only. We're gonna put it there. We didn't.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it. It was one of my favorite too, as well, bro. Like, let's hear your thoughts.
How to win friends and influence people.
I know, but we don't care about that book.
Oh.
Oh man.
So it was fantastic. Outwitting the Devil was like, man, I'm kind of beating myself up over the head for having waited so long. Moonpill Rational Optics suggested this book to us a long time ago, and we've been sitting on it in the archives for so long, and it's just like, man, there's so much good knowledge out there that exists, and it's like we can only get to everything like once a week or something like that. So it's like
the depths of that book goes into about like how humans tend to have a fall, and the good. It's basically like a here's the way you should live your life if you want to be successful and to be happy and to make everyone else around you successful and happy as well, kind of bring them up with you. And then here's how you can bring everyone down, just as a human. The way that he put it as like an interview between the devil and himself too is really cool, and it's entertaining. So I mean, it was a very, very well done book, and it's definitely a book that it's crypto related because you understand humans at that point. And crypto, especially right now in like meme coins and communities, which turn into cults, right? It is all about human beings. And so if you understand human beings, you understand these meme coins, you understand where you're putting your money.
yes, that's man, like this is good. That's a good synopsis, broski. And just like it allows you to not only do that, but also see like how other people want to control you by using the concept of evil to cloud your judgment and to get you to make like snap and emotional decisions and stuff. So like everything in there, it was such a fantastic book and super awesome and everything. Mrs. Producer, do you have any final thoughts on what we've talked about, what we've covered today? And for the folks at home, Arceus, I've seen your comment. I will be reading off all of the books in all of the tiers. For the folks at home that are listening to this on the audio only, that aren't actually watching the screen or anything, so I will do that before we end the show. But Mrs. Producer, do you have any thoughts or any sort of concerns before we go ahead and start wrapping this up?
Well, if Nate's going to complain about not getting to talk about outwitting the devil, I'm going to complain about not getting to talk about how to win friends and influence people. So
Let's talk about it then. Let's do it.
yes,
We've got some
this
time.
this book is fantastic. Honestly, guys, like if you haven't read it, I don't know where you've been living, but apparently under a damn rock. Because read it. What's wrong with you? Especially because it's free on YouTube. You can go find it at any time you want. That's where I've listened to it all the times I've listened to it. I listened to this book at work. Actually, I used to work at Walmart, and I would do packaging for like things that were going to be shipped to people. So I had a lot of time to just like put my phone in there and just plop something on. And just yeah, I mean, he goes through so many fantastic concepts about just really genuinely expressing interest in other human beings and showing that. And one of the things, and I struggle with this concept still, and this is one of the main reasons that I personally think that this book is absolutely worth revisiting as many times as you wish to. Do not criticize, critique, or condemn is one of the things that he brings up, and it's one of the biggest points that he really tries to drive home. And it's so hard to do. I mean, if you actually sit and you think about what that means, I mean, how often do we criticize people? Just every day. How often do we critique people or just say, like, you're a terrible person because you've done this, condemn them? It's so difficult to avoid that. So to me, just having that reminder of rereading this every now and again it kind of sets me back to like, oh yeah, okay, these are things that I've been forgetting or that I've been doing wrong. Um, and yeah, so I think it's absolutely essential. I mean, and one of the other things in the book is he talks about how much people really need to feel appreciated. And he has a fantastic example of this woman who is in an insane asylum. She had, lived her life and just she never felt appreciated by anybody. So she ended up going crazy. And the doctor who worked with her, he was talking to somebody about her, and he's like, "Oh, I feel so bad for her being in here." And he's like, "Well, in her mind, she's like a queen or a princess or something. I can't remember exactly what she like made herself into." And everybody loves her, and she constantly gets positive feedback, and everybody appreciates her, and they're always thanking her in her head. None of this is real, but in her, that's her state of mind that she's
Yeah.
gone into. And he's like, I wouldn't change that for her because she's happy, in the way that she has developed this psychosis. She's totally happy and totally content, and I wouldn't take that away from her. So that just really drives home how deeply important it is for every human being on this planet to feel appreciated. We will go above and beyond out of our way if we are interested in having somebody who we feel is worthy or who we are, attached to in some way, and we want them to appreciate us. People will do so much to get that. So, you know, that's basically my main points from the book. And Yeah, I guess I just wanted to be able to mention those because, you know, if we were going to go a little more in depth now that Zenith has, you know, gotten to go and do his thing, I just wanted to bring it up.
There's a point that you brought up about the condemning and the critiquing, and it got me thinking, like, what is a condemnation? What is a critique? It's basically person one describing to person two, I want your behavior to change, but I'm assigning a negative framework to it. I'm putting like an anchor on it that brings people down, that makes people feel bad, right? You can also ask a person to change their behavior in a positive manner, right? And so, like, when you critique someone, or when you criticize someone, you're essentially attempting to make them a slave to your opinion, or something like that. You're trying to force them into your own frame and take away their sovereignty and take away their ability to decide and stuff. One of the things that you can do as an ideal team player, to help people change their patterns of behavior in such a way that you would appreciate what they do more so than not appreciate what you do, is you give them the choice, right? If someone critiques someone, it's always unwelcome, it's always unwanted, it's always like, hey, I'm forcing my opinion on you, I'm at war with you, I'm not at friendship. And the way that you can go about changing that scenario is you can ask them for permission to give your opinion that's not going to be comfortable. So, like, what I often do, and like, Mrs. Producer, Nate, other members of the Degen Roundtable, you guys will all attest, because, like, I offer, like, hey, would you like to hear some feedback? Right? Is I ask them the question of, like, hey, are you interested in hearing my opinion? That, like, this is not going to be pleasant. This is going to be painful, but it's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of, like, respect. It's like I'm giving a person a choice whether they want to participate in the self betterment or in the uncomfortable program, whatever it might be. It's like, hey, look, I've got some words that aren't going to, they might not be welcome. So before I, like, just spit them out and force them into the world, it's like I would like to give you the choice to either accept them or receive them. And most people, when they're forced to listen to something painful, they don't like it. And most people, when they're given a choice, they will choose, like, actively to hear that sort of thing and do that sort of stuff. So that's just a super simple thing that people can do, is give people a choice whenever, if ever you have something bad to say about, or bad is the wrong word, if ever you have something uncomfortable to say, or unpleasant, or something that's like, I want person number two to change their behavior as I'm person number one and I don't like it, right? You know, like, if you give them the option to listen versus forcing them to listen, and of course there's a time and a place for everything. This is presuming that both people are, like, not in a state of danger and there's no, like, life threatening things, or whatever caveats there might be. But this is one super simple little thing that can be applied to life, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because that sparked that thought in my head just now. Nate, I see you come off mute. What are your thoughts, broski?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's definitely something that the Degen Roundtable needs to learn for sure.
Yeah, it's something that we're definitely working on a lot more as a team and as a community. This is something that I would encourage you guys to do in the chats as well. Like, when you see people in the chats doing something stupid, if you have, like, some abrasive thoughts to say, then, like, you can ask them in a private chat, or you can take the conversation out of a public place and you can move it into a private one. So, like, like, we're all trying to get better at all points in time, or at least we ought to be, right? And so, like, in a perfect scenario, we should all be trying to ascend. Exactly right, Nate. And so this is something that I would encourage everyone to do, is just strive to be more um respectful of other people's sovereignty, and also, like, while still maintaining your own frame. You can live in the world of, like, I am myself and I don't let other people take advantage of me, while still being respectful. And then, after a certain point, there always comes there comes a line that needs to be drawn in the sand, but most often we can have confrontation, so that way we avoid conflict later on in the future. So that's just some of my thoughts right there, and some of my final things. So thank you, Mrs. Producer, for the thoughts on the ideal team player. And sorry we had to
Yeah.
skip over it. We were a
Oh, no,
little
you're
bit
fine.
time constrained.
Yeah, I get that. I want to throw in one more thing based on what you just said there. You sparked another thing for me. And it'll be
Sure.
quick, I promise. I know we want to get out of here.
Oh,
Um,
I'm fine. Yeah, let's do it.
when you said that conflict isn't a bad thing, and in fact, it can help later down the line if you get it out of the way. That is exactly right.
Confrontation to avoid conflict. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, confrontation. Um, that reminds me so much of, I don't remember if it was the ideal team player or the oh god, I'm forgetting the title of the other one right now. What was it called? 5 something.
The 5 dysfunctions of a team.
Yes, thank you. In one of those 2 books, they specifically say that if you are going into like a team meeting and there's nothing like conflicting, there are no conflicting opinions that you guys need to discuss, then you're wasting your time having a team meeting. And that has always stuck with me because I mean, that's a very valid point. I'm not saying that you need to go into every team meeting having something that you all need to argue about, but you should absolutely not be avoiding arguments at the same time. Trying to avoid conflict or trying to avoid confrontation is unhelpful, no matter how you want to look at it, because those things will come back around. And if you sit there and you let them fester, they're only going to get worse. So, yes, very valid point. Well, completely agree.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, ladies and germs, boys and girls, ducks and squirrels, crypto degenerates, all that good stuff. It's time for us to go ahead and end this program here that we've brought up for you. But before we do, there's a certain specific special part of the show that we like to do at the beginning and the end, sometimes in the middle when we have the time, where we shout out the folks at home who are talking to us, and we fucking love you all. All right, so
You are special, people, and we love you.
yes, you're special, and we love every single one of you. This is I love it.
That is not what I thought it was going to be. Sorry.
That's the for those of you guys that have never watched 24, shout out to Kiefer Sutherland and everyone on the 24 show. That was a great show. I freaking love it. Let's do it. Let's go ahead and pull up some chat shout outs, Mrs. Producer, and go through the folks at home who have shown up since we started the show. Starting off with what I believe is Tam Tam. What's up, fam? What's up to you, Tam Tam? Good to see you. Number 1 pulse chain, cryptocurrency, and Hex community cheerleader in the space. Love to see it. Next, we got Cat's Kitchen. I'm with you, Z. I believe that Outliers belongs in the green. Ooh, Outliers. Where do we? Oh, Outliers ended up in the red. Interesting. Cat's Kitchen. Outliers was a decent book. I can't remember why it went into the red, but that's where it ended up. So hey, we shall see. And like guys, again, I will drop the links in the chat while we're doing our final thing here, so where you guys can go and you can vote your own. You can create your own little tier list. I highly recommend that you guys drop them in the general chat of the Degen Roundtable Book Club, which I will drop in the link right now. It is for those of you guys that are listening, it is t.me/Degen Book Club /1. That is the Degen Roundtable Book Club Telegram general chat room, where I've gone ahead and put the show's official our official tier list. Now, when you guys go to the website that I dropped the link for earlier today, that allows you to create your own little tier lists. It is oh man, I dropped the live event voting one in the chats, but I did not drop the main tier list creation one. So I'll go ahead and drop that there as well. So copy text, done making the template right on over here. If you guys want to go through this list and do your own little specific tier thing, I had to change the colors to blue, green, and red. But if you'll go ahead and click on that now, I've dropped the link in the chat. It is done making the template at tiermaker.com/create/Degen Roundtable Book Club, and then a whole bunch of numbers and things like that. So you guys can see the link in the live chat right there. And I will go ahead and drop that in the Telegram as well for those of you that want to participate in the book club ranking system. So this is freaking awesome. Nate has already dropped his in there. I've dropped mine earlier. So we've got a whole bunch of cool options. That is the template. And you guys can go ahead and do all your voting and all your fun little stuff there. So I highly I would love to see everyone's. Oh, my lights have turned off. I would love to see everyone's lists and see where you guys all rank the important books and see what you like best. The more feedback that we get from the audience, the better our book club's going to be, because then we're going to know what are some good books that you guys like to listen to reading and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and continue on with these chat shoutouts. I got a little bit lost there. So next up, we got Kenturian54X saying, "Ahoy, Degens! Ahoy to you too, good sir, Mr. Kenturian. It's good to see you, amigo. Welcome to the chats." After that, we've got Moondog with the star, the heart, the Haya gang, the up symbol, the sunrise, and some dog paw prints. I fucking love you, Moondog, broski. You are freaking awesome. I see that you've changed your moon to MOON instead of the MEWN. Man, it's so hard to keep up with all your different screen names all over the place, but love and light to you too, sir. Good to see you. Next up, we've got Arceus. Could you read off the Galaxy Brain list? My screen equals tiny. Yes, as soon as I'm done with chat shoutouts, Arceus, I will read off all of the lists. And then once the show's over, I'll go ahead and put that in the Telegram as like a typed out list so you guys can see where the rankings are in all of the in the text format. So you guys will have all of the tools to look at all of this stuff. Next up in the chat shoutouts, we've got Brothers64, one of my favorite cryptocurrency content creators. Shout out to these guys. Go check them out on Instagram. Go check them out. I think they're on TikTok. They might be on YouTube Shorts. But you guys can find all their stuff at, I believe it's linktree.com/brothers64, something like that. But they're Brothers64 for sure on Instagram, which is where I found them. Great advice, Will. Going to smash this replay right after the show, D-Gens. Fucking love it, broski. Good to see you. Go check out these guys. If ever you guys meet some brand new people that are in our age demographic, somewhere in the late 20s, early 30s, maybe even the 40s, go check out the Brothers64 because they make some great onboarding content for the folks at home that grew up playing Nintendo 64 stuff. So I love to see it. Love that you guys are here and love that you watch the show and are enjoying it as well. Next up, we've got none other than Large with his Stormtrooper bloody helmet. D-Gens. Howdy. Howdy to you too, sir. It's good to see you, Large. Nice to see that you're large and in charge. We fucking love it. And then finally, Funkmaster Hex. He started off the stream. He's finishing up the stream. Christmas holidays started today. A couple cocktails and some live streams to celebrate. It is indeed the Christmas season and the Christmas spirit. So shout out to you, the Julian of the cryptocurrency and Hex ecosystem space. Nate, you drinking some pineapple juice? I fucking love it, bro. That's fucking great. I love it. Shout out to you, Funkmaster Hex. Shout out to all of you guys in the chats and all of you that are hanging out and doing the stuff. So, for the folks at home that could not see all the stuff on the screen, I'm going to go ahead and read to you guys the different tier lists for our final round of the Degen Roundtable Book Club ranking system. So, in the top tier of Galaxy Brain, we've got by Alex Hormozy, $100 million offers. By Jocko Willink, extreme ownership. By, I want to say it's George Clason, the richest man in Babylon. I'm just going to skip the authors. We've got Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We've got The One Thing, The Sovereign Individual, The Law by Frederick Bastiat. That one's a specific one. The Ideal Team Player, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, The Speed of Trust, The Great Wave, Outwitting the Devil, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Building a Second Brain. In the Good Soup category, tier number 2, we've got Thinking in Bets, The Changing World Order, The Power of Now, Sci-Vive, The Anatomy of the State, The Warrior Ethos, The Warrior Ethos, there we go, no tongue twisters, How to Avoid Trouble with the IRS, The Way of the Wolf, Think and Grow Rich. And that was tier 2. Tier 3 is the Tasty Morsels tier. $100 million leads. Poor Richard's Retirement. The Millionaire Fast Lane. The Toyota Way. The Psychology of Money. The Road to Serfdom. Oh, man. Bachelor Pad Economics. The Prince. Debt. 15 Ways to Fix the World. And The Millionaire Next Door. And then finally, in our bottom tier of interesting, we got Outliers. The Book of 5 Rings, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, and The Value of Others. And that concludes the official Degen Roundtable conglomerate stream analysis and the tier list for the folks at home. Before we go, it's time to do our final shout outs and tell the folks at home where we can be found and what we've got going on in the near future. Mr. Nate McGettit, why don't you go ahead and start us off in this category? Tell the folks at home where they can find you and what have you got going on in the near future, my friend?
Yeah, so I am the Ascending Man. And you can go ahead and find me on my own personal channel, which is the Ascending Man YouTube. You can also find me on x.com with Ascending Man 369. I've got some very interesting stuff coming along. Currently, what I have going on there is a simple technology show, which is where I get really in depth with the projects that are on Pulse Chain right now. So if you want to learn about, maybe what to go invest your money in, the do your own research part of it is going to be watching my episodes. So go ahead, go through there. I had the aliens on last time, Coach X, right, and PTGC and all that. However, what I'm doing right now is I'm going to be taking a break for the Christmas season and New Year's season. But as soon as that's over, I'm going to have a few videos actually recorded. And I've got a 2-part that is on PDI. And it's going to be very in-depth about why it can peg, but also all the arguments against why it cannot peg, right? And so I'm going to be going through it, two-part episode. It's all recorded. I also may or may not be talking to Will Stevenson here, perhaps, at another show that I've got in the works. So
I look forward to it.
Perhaps we might do something there, right? Before the New Year's. And that will be another show. And all this will start coming out. I'll be going on kind of a regular schedule. There's a lot of interesting content. This, by the way, this is going to be a lot of new content that you have not seen in the crypto space. You see it other places, but you've not seen it in the crypto space yet. So I call it Blue Ocean content material. So go ahead, just go subscribe over to my channel. Look forward to it. Let's get it. Let's ascend, guys.
Excellent. I like it. I like it. Mrs. Producer, where can the folks at home find you, and what have you got going on in the near future?
Hello. Okay, so for me, you can find me in the Degen Roundtable Telegram. That's basically the only place I'm at. Yeah, if you want to talk to me about thumbnails, Canva, or sorry, not Canva, producing, StreamYards, I guess the background stuff. Sorry, I am totally losing what I wanted to say. But if you want to chat with,
producer stuff,
me,
right?
Yes, producer stuff. If you want to chat about anything like that, go ahead and scan that QR code or click the link in the description. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in here really quick. And yeah, check us out and come say hi. Always happy to hear from anybody who watches us. And yeah, and I wanted to add in, there we go, scan me, scan it, do it now.
Yes.
Do it now. If you haven't already, scan that little guy. It's right there. It's colorful. It's pretty. It's very pretty. I like it. And I wanted to go ahead and throw in, just as Will commented on Nate's choice of drink tonight being a can of pineapple juice. This is a little bit of fun for me because I usually go grocery shopping on my own, or I'll bring Soren with me if he's not at school. Tonight, Nate and I went out because he got home super early from work at like noonish. So we went grocery shopping, and our grocery bill was about $50 higher because Nate picked out a whole bunch of drinks. Me and Nate often make jokes that we are sauce people and drink people. You open our fridge and it's like the entire top shelf is all drinks. The entire bottom shelf is all like different kinds of sauces and like condiments for stuff.
We're very saucy.
So it was just funny to me because Nate came with me and I'm like, he never goes grocery shopping with me. Like it's been years. And then all of a sudden we're like all these extra drinks and I'm just like, yeah, Nate hasn't changed at all. Just all the drinks. And I'm like, I never would have even thought about pineapple juice. And he's just like, I want this and I want this drink, like these Peregrino things and like carbonated water. So anyways, yeah, it was just a little fun thing that happened today.
That's awesome. I'm right there with you on the carbonated water. I buy the cheap stuff for carbonated water, but like, dude, like I just bought some pineapple juice myself for my little. I've made a little dry bar, so I can make some like mixed drinks and cocktails and stuff. So like that's freaking awesome. I love that you guys are going shopping together. So the folks at home can find you over at the Degen Roundtable Telegram. Also, I've dropped the link for the book club Telegram in our live chats right now for the folks at home that are listening. It is t.me/Degen Book Club, and that is the URL that will get you into our Telegram group for the Degen Roundtable Book Club. For those of you who did not hear earlier, next week on December 27th, I will be hosting and we'll be covering. Oh shoot, what's the name of it? It's the Aaron Clarey book, The Curse of the High IQ by Aaron Clarey. I literally just typed it into the Telegram not but a moment ago, and I was trying to remember it. The Curse of the High IQ by Aaron Clarey is the book that I'm going to be covering next week, and you guys will see us. I don't think we have a special guest for. Oh wow, Wednesday. Our Wednesday special guest show is December 25th. So I don't have any plans for anything going on, but I think that if I have the ability, I might host a community day on Christmas. We'll see. It depends on what the folks at home are doing and what's going on there. So we definitely have our flagship show on Sunday. That's for sure going to happen, where we talk about the crypto news for the week. You guys will see us over there as well. Again, all of our shows here on the Degen Roundtable are Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. It starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. So you guys can find us right here on youtube.com/@degenroundtable is the name of our channel. Again, it is Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. That is midnight London time, or 5 p.m. Pacific. I can't remember the Australian time for the life of me. If you're in South Africa, it's like 3 in the morning. There's some other places that I probably should remember. But anyways, that's when we start our streams every single time, and it's always live. Occasionally we will drop a Degen Roundtable Insights, or we will do live streams from the Telegram. You guys should definitely hop on over into our Telegrams if you want some of the super secret magical sauce. Agent J is very good about doing some high quality technical analysis streams and hanging out with the folks over there in the Telegram. So scan that QR code, click on the link, go up to your URL and type in t.me/DRT, standing for Degen Roundtable. Join now. DRT join now. t.me/DRT join now. Other than that, you guys can find me and all of my socials off of the Pulse domain will.pls.fyi. If you guys want to find me on X, I'm just willstevensonx. If you guys want to find me on Facebook or on Instagram, my stuff there is pretty similar. It's like will.stevenson.iii because I'm the third. Same thing on Instagram. All of my socials can be found linked at that little thing right there if you guys want to stalk me or do whatever. But that's all that I have about that. No confirmation again for the Wednesday Christmas stream or something. It's just something I've thought about right now. So we'll see if I do it or not. It depends on if I'm up here in New Hampshire or if I'm off somewhere else visiting with people. But as of now, we're just going to say it's a 50-50, but we're definitely having our flagship show on Sunday. So look forward to that. Other than that, I think it's time to go ahead and read the end of show copywriting. So, oh goodness, I just changed the size of my tab, so it's like I can't see the damn copywriting. All right, here we go. Ooh, we actually have a new piece of copywriting that I'm going to read for you guys. I went and created a Degen Roundtable preamble to the Constitution, and it came with some fun little fantastic stuff. So I'm going to read that before I launch into the end of show stuff. And remember, to all you guys, that none of the stuff that we talk about here on the Degen Roundtable is financial advice. So just take that, put it in your pocket, and save it for later. Because we, the debauched, in pursuit of chaotic harmony, unite to form a more questionable union, establish but strictly unregulated fun to ensure a steady flow of libations and provide for our collective shenanigans, all while promoting the art of bad decision-making and securing the blessings of free-spirited vibes to both ourselves and to future party animals, do hereby establish this glorious testament of a podcast to indulge and have excess for all who dare to live recklessly. Will you join us and turn down for what? I want to thank all of you for spending your valuable time with us here on the Degen Roundtable. As Agent J often says, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you spending each little bit of that time with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the Degen Roundtable. Mrs. Producer, go ahead and get that trigger finger ready, because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to degen responsibly.